Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Dumpster Diaries Podcast. As always, I am your host, Justin Allen. I'm here with my buddy, Moses Wartooth. And today we have a very special guest for you. This is my good friend, Herbert Midgley, also known as the internet legend on YouTube. Oh my gosh, dude. I've been wanting to get you on the show for a while, man.
You know, I'm so impressed the amount of content you have already put out. And this is such a great set here. This is awesome, and I love the lighting. I love the microphone. So this is amazing. So thank you for having me on. Thank you so much.
Absolutely appreciate it, man. Yeah, we put a lot of hard work into it. You know,
a lot of trial and error.
A lot of trial, about 2 years worth of trial and error just going on, and we're still like. I mean, you know, like when you create something, because we'll get on to your history, because you created so much between music and film and everything, like
the all-encompassing media aspect.
But I mean, you know how it is. Like, you know, if you show something, you know, that you create to somebody, you know, they'll be like, yeah, like it's good. They may even actually really like it. But then you're gonna find those little details. You're gonna be like, I could do that better. You're gonna be your worst critic.
You know, just because we're talking about podcasts early, we had an educational technology podcast called The Return of Whatever, because there was a TV show called Whatever that was on. Oh golly, what was it? It was a low power local channel here in Lufkin, and they had a tower in Nacogdoches.
Almost like some PBS stuff.
It was basically like public access in some aspects, and they're supposed to have 1 hour a day of original content, or like 5 hours a week, something like that.
And this is like early on in the day, because you were telling me about this show, man. This is like right when podcasting became a thing.
Yeah, so we had a show called Whatever, and I kind of bogart my way onto it because I saw it on there, and you could only pick it up with antenna. It wasn't on cable. So I had my little rabbit ears back in 2004, whatever it was. It was something like that at that time period there. And I saw my friends on there, and it was two of them, and they both were best friends, kind of like you guys are.
Yeah.
And having a third wheel there as someone that could go on either side kind of gave a little bit more energy to it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And so
100%.
We talked a lot about TV shows. It was a UPN affiliate. And so they had Enterprise, and I think they had Buffy on there and whatnot. So anyways, so we did that for a while, hour and a half, and then he kind of left the TV station. And so I thought when we did the podcast, I would just call it The Return of Whatever. And so we did that. We did a bunch of educational podcasts. So we had a couple of folks at the university I taught at. One person actually left, and we were using, this is long before Zoom, and we found a system. It wasn't Skype. I can't remember what it was, but we found some system that we could do that. But I had them do a redundant Audacity recording and basically send me that.
Like Audacity, the software?
The software, and then send me the MP3 of that. That way I have good audio quality, because back then it was kind of this spotty, not even telephone quality.
It was really dicey.
And so the beginnings of that. And I had heard a term podcast before, and I thought, well, this is kind of cool, and figured it out, and actually kind of got it on iTunes at the time, upload the photo, the RSS feed.
Yeah.
And so all that stuff was, kind of new breaking area.
For some reason, we have a bunch of people in Indonesia that listen to our RSS feed.
Yeah, and that's probably because
it's like the most random stuff, like it's all over the world. And like what's cool now, like it'll give you a heat map, like it'll show like where you're pinging, like by city and location. And
we're like, hey man, we just got a viewer in like Australia, like Sydney hit us up today.
It's like really exciting. It's like, oh crap, and then you start seeing them coming back for more and more and more.
The thing
I didn't mean to cut you
off.
No.
The thing I learned a lot about The Return of Whatever is like, every day, every week, it was a grind. So we would come up with show notes. We would do this, and this is long before at least anybody I knew was making any money off of it. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of petered out, and we would do. Eventually, this kind of petered out. But that was a cool learning experience of going on there and finding some. I think we talked about the Facebook when it came out.
The Facebook.
Yeah, because you had to have an email from a university.
When it started.
To get in there. And it was called The Facebook.
Yeah.
And so it was, anyway, so things like that. That was interesting. So,
man, so you're like probably one of the most interesting people I've ever met. So I kind of want to get on, like, I think it's better to start from the top and then work the way back, honestly.
Yeah, there's a lot to process, I feel like.
With you, let's talk about, so not only are you an educator, you're a university professor, but you're also a YouTube legend. Your title is literally, your channel's named The Internet Legend. And then you've also made films. Like, so you have written and directed and produced like films, and you've worked on like over 20 films in your life.
Oh, if you count short films, it's probably getting close to the 100
wow.
range.
So like, where do we start?
If you count on like the things I act, and like normally I don't have a beard.
Yeah, I know this is a new look for you, man.
Normally I have short hair, and I wrote a film of this person that's a biker, and so I wanted to have that look, and I like trying to look different for every film I do. So this is like almost 5 months of not shaving to get to this part for a 5-minute film.
All right.
That honestly most people probably would never even see.
Let's break it down.
It's a commitment to the craft.
Yes.
Let's start from the top. So tell me, how does just your YouTube stuff?
Yes.
Okay. Because we'll get on the education stuff here in a second. But how does the internet legend come to be?
So let's go back to Google Video, and which no one even remembers now.
No, I do not.
That was one of the forays, and this is a time when I had a PowerPC Mac, and I had to get it to a G3, so I had to buy another processor to put in there, put a FireWire card in there, a USB card in there, so I could use a new thing called iMovie. And so I had a DV cam.
I've actually heard of iMovie.
Yeah, I remember iMovie.
Yeah.
So I got a DV cam from Circuit City that was on display because I got it cheaper that way. That had a FireWire connection. And so back in the day, unlike today, you record an hour worth of footage. It took you an hour to upload it because it would do it in real time. Then in iMovie, you would edit it, and then I call it bouncing down, but you would render it to a video. And if it was a few minutes, it wouldn't take as long. But if it was like an hour, it would take a while for it to render. Mm-hmm. Then you had to upload it on maybe a megabit connection.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dial-up, basically, wasn't it?
Well, I had dial-up for a a little bit. I never did try to upload anything on dial-up.
I was gonna say that would be terrible.
Yeah, see you in 16 weeks, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be very small. So I finally got a megabit connection. I was like, oh great, now I can finally do some stuff. And it had something called Google Video.
Yeah.
And at first, it kind of worked. Like within a day, it would go up. So like you put it at noon, maybe by midnight or a little bit the next day it came up. But it got so bogged down that I had stuff that sometimes it would take 2 weeks for it to go live. I mean, can you imagine that? You'd upload a video and 2 weeks later it's live?
Yeah, like, woo, we're live. Yeah, here we are.
And I would listen to some podcasts. I was a big fan of Tech TV. I don't know if you are.
Oh, I do remember that.
They had something called Screensavers, and it was an hour and a half long.
It was bought out by G4, I believe.
G4, yeah.
So you start kind of getting into this while you're in college.
Well, I'm teaching.
You're teaching at this point.
I'm teaching at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is in 2000. I started teaching at a university in 1999.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang, I thought it was a little later than that.
No,
really, I didn't realize it was in '99, dude.
2 years before that, I taught public school. So
yeah.
So
okay.
That's. So I was around at the beginnings. If I go back real quick, when I was in college in 1992 and the beginning of 1993, I saw the beginnings of the internet. They had Grofler, and then in '93 I saw Mosaic, and it was a little toaster Mac, and it was slow, but text and pictures, I'm thinking, man, if they get this a little bit faster, this is going to explode.
Yeah.
Because I could see that there were some possibilities. And back then, I think in '93, the backbone was a 56K bandwidth. It was this, so on all the colleges, that's what it was, that was the bandwidth. And like, it's amazing to see that, to think that I was there seeing that at the beginning.
It is cool. It is cool.
So jump ahead a few more years as we finally get out of the dial-up and into that. And I started exploring around with making films. And they had something on those DV cams called basically night vision. Yeah. And so I made something called the scary monster. I forgot what it was. But anyways, shot it in that where it's choppy. It's like 2 frames a second.
When you went to school, like initially, because you have, 8 degrees?
I have 8 degrees altogether.
So initially, like at this point in time, like when you're in school, are you going to school for film or are you going to school for education?
I started off as a composer. So
yeah.
my first degrees were in music theory and composition.
Okay.
And so in some ways, I'm glad I did that in my youth because that is so time-consuming. Playing piano, sitting and composing music. Happily, we did have some software that I could actually use. And by 95, 96, I could input notes faster than I could play them. So
Yeah.
I finally got this is a computer. I don't need a computer any faster than this. This can play. This can put notes as fast as I can play it. This is a great computer. But before that, sometimes there would be this little delay of putting things in there. So my background was in music, and I always wanted to do film scoring. So I started dabbling when the digital revolution happened with the DV cams.
Yeah.
That's one reason why I spent $600 on a Digicam that was cheaper because it was marked down from being a display unit, and started making my own films. And they were pretty crummy because you don't know anything about editing, and you think everything's good. And as time goes on, that 5-minute film should have been 5 seconds.
It's funny how that works. This is gold, and then you see it months later, and you're like, that is the worst thing I've ever
Why
made.
did I leave that in there?
But it gave me 5 minutes to write a score, and that was kind of fun to do that. And so later on, I would listen to Howard Stern. I don't know if any of y'all. Howard Stern, and he'd call himself the king of all media. I remember seeing him on, I think, Conan.
Well, he was very active and outspoken against podcasting. He said it was never going to go anywhere, that it was never going to be a thing.
He talked major crap about it.
And
well, he talked about how he got the term the king of all media, and so he said he started calling himself that, and he didn't even believe it. But at some point, people started calling it, and I thought, all right, here's the internet, the internet legend. Let me just start.
Like, what's better than a king? A legend.
So let me just get that domain name.
So that's literally where it came from.
Yes, and I thought that's a good way to market it.
That is.
I mean, how do you market? Start calling yourself something. Start calling yourself something. At some point, people just start calling you that. And it's like on my Facebook and Twitter, I put computed. I can't tell you. I went to the Blueberry Fest, and people are coming computed. They're seeing me film my little my little package on the Blueberry Fest. And so
we'll get on and explain what computed means here in a little bit, man. That's an interesting story with that.
It tells you in a lot of ways that if you're consistent with a brand, that people will resonate at some point if they see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's how the internet legend comes around. And I thought, well, it is a little long to type, but I thought that is the king of all media is pretty long also.
Yeah.
And so some aspects. So I claimed that, and oh golly.
Well, yeah, I think your YouTube channel is great, man. I think it's going good.
You want to talk about consistency? This man knows consistency.
I had a friend back when I was doing open mic, and he said, "Hey, could you post a video every day for a year?" And I thought, yeah, I could. This is 1990. This is 2009.
Yeah.
And I think it was like December 21st of 2009. Since then, daily, I posted a video on YouTube. So,
yeah.
And you haven't missed a day?
Haven't missed a day.
And how long?
Since 2009.
That is mind-blowing. Out
of all natural disasters.
Yeah, dude, that is hard to comprehend.
Now, I will say this. There's if I travel to Hawaii, I'm using the time zones of
for sure
where I'm at.
I think you get a little bit of leeway with that.
Yeah.
When I went to Europe for 2 weeks, I batched them. Mm-hmm. So I pre-made them and then had a drop.
So you didn't miss a day.
Yeah, I had a drop. So I've done that one time when I went to Vegas. Because believe it or not, there were some times you'd go to places that you didn't have internet. Mm-hmm. I remember I got internet by Abbey Road in London. And so this is back before people locked their Wi-Fi down, and I was actually able to kind of get some internet by Abbey Road. Anyways, and I remember I was staying in London, it's flat, and I went up like 3 or 4 flights, and I was able to catch the Wi-Fi from someone around there. Anyway,
isn't it crazy how it's changed so much? Because I was born in, you were 90, born in
90.
90? I was born in 91. But even then, I kind of still remember that. I remember like AOL.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you had to pay for hours to get online.
Mm-hmm. And all the discs they would send in the mail.
Yeah.
If you refer a friend and get 10 free hours.
And then I remember when MySpace became a thing. And then I remember when Facebook was coming up and everybody was like, oh, Facebook is better than MySpace. And then I remember like when YouTube was just like a joke.
Yeah, just cat videos.
Yeah.
So on Tech TV, I heard about YouTube, and kind of go back to that Google video. I thought, okay, let me try it out, and it uploaded the video within a day. I thought, this is great.
Yeah.
This is
It's
amazing.
easy.
And so the compression is really, primitive. If you go back and look at some of my first videos posted up there,
Yeah.
I think it was, I don't even know, it was 240. Anyways, it was
144.
something like that. It's just like, just so compressed because they had no bandwidth. This is before Google bought it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in some aspects, if Google would have owned it when I started, I probably would have 10 million subscribers or whatever. But this is before they even had subscribers. I think there was something like friends you had, and then they switched it to subscribers, and then that all got kind of wiped out. So anyways, it's been interesting. But, for some guy in East Texas that have 10 million views, over a span of a bunch of decades at this point, I think that's not too shabby because
no, it's pretty good considering the rural area that you're from and like work in and stuff. Like it's pretty impressive, man. And then, but you're also like in yourself, like you're such a character.
Yeah.
Like, cause I know like people who've never met you, like hearing this, like they're just like, what are you talking? Like, go to the Internet Legend on YouTube. You will see exactly what I'm talking about.
and the thing now is like everybody kind of has more niche channels. Like this podcast is its own channel, right?
Yes.
So you wouldn't put this along with walking a dog or cooking food or whatever because everything's. So mine's really a hodgepodge of stuff, and I have tried to start other channels, and it's kind of kept going back. I really feel on this some aspects. I watched the Pee Wee Herman documentary the other day, and his whole life was kind of like a performance art aspect. Yeah. And so I've kind of thought this forever that since 2009, this is one big long art project. Yeah, posting a video daily.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a vloggy. Sometimes it's how to play boogie woogie on a piano. And what's interesting to me is what actually gets hit, what actually people watch. I can spend all this time on I'm sure you probably feel this way, spend all this time editing something, make it really good, 4 views. Something I barely think about, 1,000 views.
Yes.
Like a bowl of strike and bowling in a white suit, and 10,000 views or whatever. So you have no control over what the audience likes, and you just don't know. So my mindset is put out stuff that I want to do. Mm-hmm. And I've done this before. I'm not going to, not lie. There are sometimes I have no idea. So this is how you say A. This is how you say B. This is how you count to 10.
One of my favorite videos I've ever seen is like man goes to the library and sits. And then you just go and you sit down for like a minute. And then you get up and leave, and that's it. You don't even say anything.
Oh, I watched the one of you going and eating shrimp.
Yeah.
I was like...
Over at Red Lobster?
Yes,
yeah.
Because occasionally, like, once Justin told me about you, I was like very intrigued and curious. So I would occasionally just like, I wonder what the Internet Legend is up to today. And I'd be like, okay. Like it was always something that you could never pin down what it might be.
I think the last time I went to a Red Lobster, like real quick, they went out of business.
Yeah, they're a Mexican restaurant now in our town, dude.
So it's like $20 all you can eat shrimp, and they want you to buy other stuff. And it's like, more shrimp. So,
well, dude, I think your YouTube channel is doing great, man. I mean, I think last I looked, as of the filming of this, you had like 8.6 thousand subscribers, and YouTube is the hardest social media platform to get anything.
Yeah, whenever I talk to people and I see TikTokers, they have hundreds of thousands of views, and they go look at their YouTube and
60.
Yeah, it's a hard.
I think those big short reels, like stuff like TikTok and stuff, I think that is most of that is a facade. And I think if you're actually trying to make it in media, whether it be podcasting or film or whatever, I think it's probably better to. I mean, you need to market and advertise and be diverse, but I don't think it feels like it's not authentic. It's like 80 million people watch this. I'm like, did they though? I don't know.
The couple times I've been to L.A. To do background work, and I'll talk about that, I got to go to the YouTube studio. And they have a whole podcast, places to make videos, all this content. But the magic number is 10,000 subscribers. I'm getting close to that, but not that to be even looked at. So I just kind of wrote them and say, hey, I'm in town. I've been making this content for a really long time, and it's more. Their advice to me: start over again, start a new channel.
Are you serious?
That's their advice. Was that hey, your site is too hodgepodge or whatever.
Oh, because they're more specific. Like you need to find your niche, stick to that.
Yeah, But I feel this as well because I've watched a lot of YouTube and everything, and I feel just like TV shows, 7 years. There's a seasons for things like Star Trek went 7 seasons. There's a season. There's a length that people will watch a certain podcast or content on a YouTube channel, and I think this like anything else, you get tired of watching MASH. Not that it's bad. Or you get tired of watching The Simpsons.
It's like I love Game of Thrones, but like now, if you put on an episode of Game of Thrones, I'd be like, can I watch something else?
Yeah, you've been there before, and you're at that place when it came out. It was cool. And there's certain things like to me, some certain episodes of Star Trek I can watch any time.
Sure.
There's kind of universal for me, or some things that are really good. But that idea that there are seasons for that. Is interesting. Again, if you go back to 2009 compared to today, that's a long span of time.
Oh, yeah.
One of the ones, I don't remember his name right off the bat, but he was a young man that would make comments on my YouTube channel because I teach. I would usually have a suit and tie on because I feel that's kind of like my uniform when I go teach.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it look like I'm a teacher.
I was wondering how long it was going to take you to address why you're wearing a suit and a tie right now.
So I would go to.
This is how he dresses all the time, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Like this is.
Yeah, I dressed a little loud for today just because I thought, why not?
We appreciate it, man.
But like I'd go to Taco Bueno, and this may be my daily Machaco video or whatever. There's all the $2.99 Machaco platter, and this kid would comment on it. And then what he would do is he would put on a suit himself and make a review of a pizza or whatever because he was emulating me. But this kid YouTube blew up because he had an energy drink Christmas holiday blow up, and so his channel just blew up, and he actually makes a whole career just doing reviews, and he puts on like his grandfather's suit and whatnot. And every once in a while, he still makes comments on my stuff. And
That's cool.
That is cool. You inspired him.
So one or two. He's probably the biggest one that got to be a big YouTuber. Was inspired to me when he was 14 years old, watching my show. And again, it was just. I just wear a suit and tie everywhere. I wasn't dressing up to go to Taco Bueno. That's where I was after work.
Well, we're about to have a fancy night tonight. We're going to Taco Bueno.
so I remember I still get like comments like, "Man, Taco Bueno, it was like $2.99 at one point." It's like, so so in some aspects it's kind of like a historical archive on a lot of these things.
Yeah.
Like remember Long John Silver's?
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah,
Dairy Queen around here.
That was one of those places, man. Dairy Queen. They're getting they're just dropping like flies around here.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude. I mean, dude, your YouTube career is like fascinating, and like I said, I've said it multiple times on here. YouTube, the internet legend. You will not be disappointed.
What I think now with AI, honestly, and we're getting there because every year it's getting better.
It's insane now.
Someone's going to be able to take my content when I shuffle it off this mortal core when I pass away, and put in the million hours of content in there, and you can have an avatar of that internet legend persona.
You could. It would be a whole character.
They can already do it.
I can't imagine even 10 years from now how much better that's going to be.
It's going to be
indistinguishable from reality.
Because we're worried about our show right now. We're like, well, how are we going to get to the point? Like, are we going to get to the point where like our viewers can't even? They'll be like, oh, it's AI, because we make outlandish and crazy shorts that just say stupid and crazy stuff. And a lot of times, like sometimes people will get on there and just be like, oh, this is AI. AI is getting crazy. And it's like nothing we do is AI generated.
The one thing is when I saw Google Flow came out. I don't know if you saw that or the idea of it's $250, but I think right now they got a little half price special. And I thought about shooting the film I'm going to work on currently, and then just do it in the AI and compare and contrast.
That would be kind of cool.
And I haven't paid for the expensive version. I paid for the $20 version, and it was better. It's better a better After Effects than I could do, but it's still like you tell it to do something, it kind of is not. So it's not. People think that AI you can say write me a dissertation. It can't do that. Now it can help you rewrite a sentence. It can help you figure out your flows of thoughts. you'd have to work on your paper, your dissertation, literally half a page, maybe a page at most at a time, because it just doesn't have that memory to understand that. So people think, well, this AI is going to just destroy writing. No. Now, can it write a surface level essay? Absolutely.
Sure.
And if you're in 4th grade or 6th grade, it does a
2-page essay. Here you go.
Yeah, be great. And when I have read things before, and you see insert time, insert title, and someone just turns that in, and you're thinking, well, you may want to go back and look at this.
Zero proofreading occurred here.
Because they weren't even willing to go read through it to figure out what's going on. And I've gotten pretty good because I've been playing around with these large language models. I can look at the writing. There's certain specific things that it does.
Double hyphens a lot of the time.
Yeah, no one uses hyphens.
Exactly.
No one uses hyphens. I don't even know the rules for hyphens, really, honestly.
I don't either, but ChatGPT loves the double hyphens.
It loves the hyphens.
Yeah.
It loves certain things like that. I can look at it and say, yeah. And also I kind of look at it and think, man, this is better writing than me. I don't
know if you're capable of doing that, like based on your previous works.
But the idea of it, could it get to the point where you could give it a prompt and have it be able to do more stuff? I mean, we're only 2-3 years into this dance.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I saw a video the other day of Genghis Khan vlogging a war zone, and it looked realistic. Lip movement was on point, everything, and he's just like, yeah, so this is day in life, like what I'm doing, like all this other stuff, man.
So it does 8 seconds at a time, that Google Flow. And so those little I saw the ones with stormtroopers, and that's kind of.
Is that with the
Google Flow?
Okay.
Yeah, and so I think you can do was it 8 minutes or 5 minutes? I can't remember. It's something like that per month. So there's only so many tokens.
And is that with the $20 a month?
No, that's a $250.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but if you think about this, if I were to hire someone to do visual effects for my robot film.
Yeah,
$250 is cheap.
Oh yeah.
If all I needed was UFOs or robots walking around, and I type it in there, and here's a picture of an actor that I want to have them interact with, that could save you a lot of money and time. Mm-hmm. So I'm more
because we do have to talk about your robot film too. That's why I'm glad you brought all this up.
Yeah. A lot of my colleagues really are concerned about AI and the idea of cheating. Mm-hmm. I've never been concerned about that because people have been cheating since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
If you want to cheat, you will find a way to cheat.
If there is a system and you have the desire to cheat and you're clever enough, you can find a way to do it.
Most of the time, if you just studied, it would be faster than cheating.
Yes. If you're just the time you spent learning to cheat, you could have just done it the correct way.
Absolutely. It's not even most of the time. I'm talking about all the time. If you just put that time into that, you would be fine. But you don't want to do it. So people have been cheating forever.
Don't cheat, guys.
People have been cheating forever. What I'm more interested in, like, what can we come out of this? Because I remember seeing, like I said, mentioned seeing the internet. I had no idea that we'd get in strangers' cars. I had no idea that we'd have strangers deliver our food. I have no idea that any movie, any TV show I could pretty much watch on demand, or any piece of music I wanted to listen to, because it was so crude and rudimentary. I knew there was something there. So I think the same thing with the AI leveraging. What's going to happen isn't Terminator 2. That's not Skynet's not going to get activated and
yet.
The robots. Something will come out of it that we probably just can't predict, mm-hmm. And I think about that for higher education as well. But going back on the robot film, I've had a lot of folks kind of say, "Yeah, your film is a little bit more prophetic with all this technology and AI."
Well, so let's talk about the robot film for like people who don't know. So you made an actual movie, like full length, like film. And you can actually go on Amazon right now and rent that.
What's the title of it?
It's the Rise of the Robots, and it's available free on Tubi. It's on Amazon.
Oh, it's on Tubi also?
It's on YouTube. So
nice.
there's a lot of places to watch it on there. Yeah, and that was the summer of 2012 we shot that.
Yeah.
And so it's gotten to be kind of a local cult film. It's not a a big one. But people
It's
know who I
definitely
am.
a local cult film. Like everyone I talk to, they're like, "Oh yeah, I know about the robot film." Yeah.
And it's kind of cool. You walk around Nacogdoches and you kind of see, hey, there's that one little location there, or here's this whatever classroom or whatever.
Yeah, when I watched it, I was like, "Oh, I recognize like almost all these places."
And it was a lot. The one thing about that took 3.5 weeks to shoot the principal photography, and the one point of me. Because I feel as a director, you want to be a cheerleader. You want to give everybody energy.
Yeah.
That third week, half week, I was spent. I had no sleep, and the real person kind of came out at that point there because I had nothing left to give.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing Sylvester Stallone talk about, I think it was Expendables 1, and he says, "I'm hurt. This is our last day. We got this big explosions going on. And this is the time. How bad you want it? How bad you want to dig deep to make this thing happen?" And that resonated in the back of my head that it's up to me to make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was interesting. Then, pre-production was a lot. Principal photography was a lot. Then post was a lot. Then you got a product.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it?
Yeah, how do you get people to see it?
So at this time, Netflix, Hulu's around. I banged my head trying to find any way to get on those. Happily, and this happens, I think, a lot of times you just don't give up. Amazon Video it's like Video on Demand came out,
Yeah.
and so that allowed me to get it on Amazon. And at that point, I had distribution. I think I had it even like in Japan or
That's awesome.
The UK. I had it at various places, and so people could actually see that film.
Yeah.
And so a couple months before, this is like 2014 when that happened. A few months before, that didn't even exist. Then even for a little while there, they had print-on-demand DVDs, so I didn't have to have a warehouse of DVDs that nobody wanted. It would just, here's the master, print on demand. And
yeah.
That way, and I didn't care about making money on it, so I made it as cheap as possible because I just wanted people to be, if they wanted to get it, to see it.
Just enjoy it and just get it out there, man. Yeah, I get it.
And so
Just to have that piece of art out there, that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a really interesting aspect, but I'm so happy to do that. Whether the product of the film is great, and I enjoyed the film, the process was life-changing.
Sure. I mean, how many times can someone sit down and be like, I made a full-length movie?
That's available for purchase on Amazon.
Yeah, because you wrote, directed, you acted in it, like you did everything.
The soundtrack.
So all things can, from from the time that was a thought in your mind to it being for sale on Amazon. What time frame was that?
I think I wrote the screenplay in 2010 or 11. So not that long before starting doing a daily YouTube thing.
Yeah.
It was only a couple of years.
And I would take screenwriting classes, like obviously when I started teaching college, I think what did I have? Three degrees outside of the associate's degrees. So I guess I had 6 degrees. Yeah, okay. So I had 6 degrees then.
Some people don't even have that many jobs.
Dude, we've had so many degrees in this room today.
Yeah.
We had a medical doctor on before you were.
Yeah, that's a real doctor there. Yeah.
And dude, so like I don't even know, like more degrees than the thermometers in this room today.
But I would take classes, and I would take a playwriting class. I would take an acting class. I would take jewelry making class. Things that would get me outside my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that was to have empathy for students that maybe weren't good at what I teach. And so, like, a lot of times folks don't realize that, hey, maybe you're really good at chemistry, but your student isn't. Well, if you think if you haven't done something outside your, wheelhouse of skills, then there's no empathy for them.
Sure. Yeah, you're like, why don't you get this?
Yeah, and you realize, well, I'm here banging, trying to make a ring, and I've never done anything like that before. I think taking classes kind of keeps you humble as a teacher in some aspects.
That's good.
A lot of my colleagues, once they get done with their PhD, that's
They're like, I'm done learning.
I've heard that a lot.
Really?
I am done. I am done doing that because it is such a juggernaut of a time commitment.
Yeah, it's a huge undertaking. Even just getting an undergrad is a huge undertaking too.
Well,
if you think 4 to 5 years of your life.
If you think about this, undergrad is 4 years.
Yeah.
A master's degree is 2 years. most doctorate degrees, not medical, but most doctors of letters, as I call it, education type doctorates or anything that's in academia, it's usually 2 years of study and then 1 to 2 to 4 years of writing a dissertation. So however long that takes to conduct research to write that. So the one that is actually most time consuming is probably the baccalaureate degree.
Yeah.
And that's the one that people don't give, because that's 120 hours. Master's degree is 30 or 36, depending if you do thesis or non-thesis.
Yeah.
And then
I think if you do thesis, it's 40, right?
Yeah. Well, you can do thesis. If you do a thesis, typically you take 2 less classes, so it's 30 hours.
It's the other way. Okay. Yeah. I gotcha.
And then if you do a doctorate, most PhDs and doctorates are 60 hours.
Yeah.
Kind of the dissertation route. So you look at that. Even though one master's and a doctorate degree is 90 hours compared to 120 hours of a baccalaureate degree, so you actually did more hours as undergrad than you do when you get these advanced degrees. Now you're more specifically focused on things as you go up.
So you're getting all this education, and somehow during the process, while getting this education, while continuing to teach and do everything, you make a full-length film. And this is the crazy thing I'm going to ask you. When did you write your book, man? When did that fit into the equation?
Okay,
and how did you have time? That's what
while posting videos daily also.
on YouTube.
Well, I remember, was it Jerry Seinfeld? He had like a calendar. He says every day he worked on a stand-up. Every day he worked on that. Mm-hmm. If you I write on a screenplay daily. Mm-hmm. Every day, and sometimes it's one sentence, sometimes it's a half a page, sometimes it's multiple pages. But if I do something on it every day, and that was the same thing approach I had for my dissertation. Every day I did something. I don't care if it's Christmas. I don't care if it's birthdays.
Just some form of progression.
If I went on a holiday, I had to do something on that dissertation. Yeah. If I went to go talk at a conference, I had to do something that day. And I might be dead tired. Did something. And my thought process, if you do something every day, at some point it's going to get done. Mm-hmm. If you work on a house every day, at some point you're like, well, I guess it's finished. It's built. And so for a lot of folks that, because there's a lot of what they call ABDs out there.
What is it, ABD?
Everything but dissertation.
Oh,
so they went through all the coursework and they didn't finish the dissertation. And sadly, they're not called doctors or anything. They're just someone that's an ABD on it, and even there's really no place to put on a resume that you got ABD unless you're still working on your dissertation. But
sure.
once you gave up, and it's kind of like you did all this coursework for, I hate to say for nothing, but in some ways it kind of is.
Yeah.
I mean, you learn some things.
I've known 2 guys that have dropped out of the PhD program. Yeah,
and it's intense, and I understand it is a. For those
because they got halfway through it and they were like, "This is not what I want to do."
And you know what? I applaud them to know that.
Well, because even then, some PhDs, especially in the STEM fields, there's not a whole lot of change in pay between getting a master's and having a PhD. And they're like, "Well, am I really going to go kill myself for another 5 years?"
It depends on where you're at in your life. If you have a family, and for 4 years, I've really sacrificed a lot of time working on a EDD degree. Yeah. So there's PhD, then EDD. Then there's other ones like music has a DMEA, and business has their own ones. But all of them, you could sort of get a PhD in potentially. And PhD is usually more heavy in research. My degree, I had some research in it, but it's not as heavy. I didn't study stats as much or all the research methodologies as much as many in PhD route. But anyway, so it's a lot of sacrifice to put that together. But it's similar in baccalaureate degree. I mean, there's sacrifice going on. Mm-hmm. You're a little younger. I always feel in some aspects, being a young person, it's kind of nice to get that out of the way just to have it. I don't know what you're going to do with it sometimes.
Sure.
But having a baccalaureate degree can give you some more options. Having an EDD degree can potentially give me some more options. Having an MFA in filmmaking can give me some options. And I always feel like if you got time to put into it, go ahead, because you just don't know where you're going to be at in the future. You just don't know what opportunities. What allowed me to teach at a university was I had a master's degree in theory and composition, and I knew how to cook together MIDI cables, electronic music cables. And that was probably more important in some aspects than my degree, because there's a lot of people that had degrees, but I had a skill set, nerd, taking computers apart, hooking up interfaces and loading software, and I was proficient with that. I could hook up labs and things like that. That was the skill that was kind of more important than the degree, but the degree allowed me to be able to do that. Just like I have a teaching credential in Texas, that will allow me to teach music in public school, and so that's just part of the part of the deal of being able to do that. So I feel one thing about higher education, I get a lot of people ask me, or their kids ask me, and what should I major in? I say, major in something that you're interested in.
Yeah, for sure. Don't go do something just because somebody else told you to, or you're like, oh, this is going to pay more money. It's like, you're going to be miserable.
It's like, someone says, life. I'm going to write a book or do a podcast, or I can't tell you for acting wise. Man, I want to be an actor because I want to be rich. Say, hold on. I know.
Yeah,
I know tons of actors out there, and the last was it when they went on strike? And it showed you the amount of people that didn't even qualify. Didn't even make, I forgot what it is, like $12,000 a year. Anyways, didn't even qualify for the insurance.
Half of like the poverty wage line.
Well, you had to like earn like $12,000 a year, or something like that, to qualify for the health insurance for SAG.
Yeah.
And 90% of the actors didn't even make that much money. So like, what do you mean getting rich? And I also have people say, boy, when I act, I can make people cry. I'm thinking, is that good? is that what you're supposed to do?
What kind of feeling are you trying to portray?
and what it is like this, if you're a writer, that's a skill set. If you're an actor, it's a skill set. I go to Comic-Cons, and I remember seeing some of these actors in, what was it, Jessica Jones? I can't remember the actress name, but she was...
Oh, I know who you're talking about. She was a girl in Breaking Bad.
Yeah, she was Jesse's girlfriend in Breaking Bad. Fantastic actor. I saw her in Blacklist and several other things. Mm-hmm. But she went in there and she said before she did Jessica Jones, she worked with an acting coach for 6 months to get into the mindset to play that character. I'm thinking most of these people wouldn't work 6 minutes on a part.
Yeah, that's and that's kind of like one thing too, man. I see this in stand up because I do stand up comedy as a hobby. Like I'm not trying to make a career out of it or anything like that, because it is really hard to do. And I see it in stand up and I see it a little bit with podcasting. So people are just like, oh, that's just somebody talk. I can walk in and do that, and I can be great at it. And, we've had people that have talked about like that with podcasting, and I've invited them on the show and be like, hey, man, yeah, you can come hang out, whatever, do whatever you want. And a lot of them back out. And they're like, and I'm like, it's not as easy, it's a very uncomfortable thing getting behind a microphone and talking, and especially when there's lights and there's camera. And you think, because you're consuming that video, you're like, oh, this comes natural to this person, so it's going to come natural to me. It's like, no, but that person's been doing that for 15 years, and you're discrediting all this work they've been doing in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the idea of, I write screenplays, but there's folks out there that really are writers.
Yeah.
There's folks out there who are really good at cameras and lights and things like that. And that's what, like when some people go on holiday to go to Hawaii or whatever. I would go to L.A. to be a starving actor. And so before the pandemic, I got to go there 2 years before the pandemic happened, sadly. I'd probably still be going out there.
The more you talk, the more I just remember stories. Like, because you were like on The Price is Right and stuff like that. Like, you go out to L.A. and you just sign up for stuff.
So, like, I remember I knew this cat. He went out to L.A. to be an actor and was living like 4 hours from L.A. I'm thinking, that'd be like trying to go down to Houston, you live in Tyler or whatever. I mean, who's going to drive back and forth that much to go there? So I went to because I have a degree in filmmaking, I make films. I knew the fastest way to get on set, do background work.
Yeah.
And here I am. I went to Central Casting, and at the time there, it's changed up, but they only took the first 80 people. So I got up at 3 a.m. Took the Uber over there. Actually, I because I'm cheap, I'd share a ride the Uber, and another young lady was going to the same place because she was doing the same thing I was going to do. And so went there, sat there happily, got there at 3 a.m, and they opened up at 9 or 8 or whatever it was. And happily, I was like one of the first 80 in there. So I'm going in there, I'm sitting down, everybody's good looking. Everybody's young, model looking. Here I am, a middle-aged, overweight guy. And I'm just sitting there thinking, all right, what's going on?
It's going to happen here.
So they took a headshot, and I went with a business suit on because I think that's kind of the look I have.
Yeah.
And so then I'd say, okay, well, I did my thing for today. I can't remember how I went home and slept or whatever, but I went to the Airbnb. But anyways, I went to USC to walk around campus because, they got a lot of filmmaking thing going on. And I get a text. Are you available for the Rookie tomorrow? And I'm like, yes, I am. And I'm like, wow, this actually works.
Yeah.
So the next day, I'm on the Rookie set. The captain of the Firefly, I don't know if you, Nathan, I can't remember his name, but anyways.
I know who you're talking about.
I'm a big fan of the Firefly.
So sad they only did one season.
Yeah. And so he's the star of the Rookie. So we're on the subway, and I didn't even know in LA they had subways going on. So I took the red line because I was where I was living at for those 2 weeks there. Anyways, in between takes, he sat right next to me. So here I am sitting next to the captain of the Firefly. They're paying me money to be there. They're feeding me. And I thought, this is so cool. Now, as background, you're not really supposed to talk to the talent, so I didn't talk to him. But I'm literally sitting right next to me is the captain of the Firefly. And I'm like, this is so cool. This is so awesome. So I got a decent amount of work. And what I realized is that there's a lot of models out there, but they need regular people.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to be background work, if you look like a regular person, you could do some work.
Yeah.
And
well, you were the one that got me into it because I applied. I've talked about it on the show before, but I applied to do the 1923, and I got hooked up being a background actor quick. Went through the whole experience, the fitting for the costume, hair, all that stuff. And it was cool. I mean, I ended up with about 2 seconds on Paramount Plus, but it's like, yeah, there you go.
Well, I mean, same thing for me. But what it was, the proof of concept was like I'm going there as a starving actor, so I'm going to try only use my money that I make there to live on. And so I would go eat the Crafty there, eat the food. That would be my meal. Whatever they fed me that day would be what I would eat.
Hey, I hate to cut it short. I got to take a break, man, real quick. I got to check on her. She's like, what's that something, Mark? You might write down that time.
That's what I'm doing.
Sadly, got to make a cut.
Yeah, right.
Make a cut. I remember someone said they had a guy that would charge you by the click to edit.
Oh, really?
So how many clicks you got was 5 clicks was this amount, and 10 clicks was this. And so I thought that was hilarious.
That is. Talk about getting paid by the mile type stuff.
All right, so 10 clicks means is this price here, 20 clicks is this.
I'd be like, someone needs to watch this guy. Is he getting some extra clicks in there?
I would assume the guy would be honest because he's charging by the click.
You would hope so. I mean, if you're charging by the click, I would expect you to be a very proficient and technical individual.
Yeah, I don't think this person was that good, but he knew enough to be dangerous
enough to try to get some money.
Well, there's a lot of folks that kind of question, golly, I mean, there's kids that are high school that do better work than you're doing, and you're actually charging money for this thing. I was like, oh, I mean, yeah. So it's just changed a whole lot. But yeah, this is exactly what I put on the podcast. I don't want to go through and edit stuff. Because that way it's more. But you do put bumper music before, right, and some music in the end as well. So you have to do a little bit of rendering anyway. You have to render it anyways. But
it's every time it's basically there's normally at least one edit in for some reason or other bathroom break normally. But
what software do you use?
DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah, that's gotten to be so big.
I was using Premiere Pro, but while I was in school, I would get a student discount. But after that ran out, it was like $60 a month just for Premiere Pro, and I'm already paying for Photoshop and everything else. So I was like, I'm dropping that and swapped over to Resolve, and I've had no issues out of it.
Well, you're not Apple, are you?
Sir?
You're not Macintosh, are you?
No.
Because I found this for $30. It's called Lumen Fusion, and it works on the iPhones, but it also works on the Mac OS. And at $30, it's actually good enough.
Is it a one-time purchase?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, there's one I love that was like $70 a year. I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, I would pay $70 once.
For sure.
You know, but the idea of cloud, that's one thing that's come around. It's like,
I know that's what turned me off of Adobe. Like I did stick with the Photoshop because I grew up with it. Like that's what I'm familiar with on all the photo editing stuff. I just don't want to learn another program.
On the robot film, I bought because you could still buy the license back then. So I still got a 2012 version of it that I could put on an older PC.
Yeah.
And have it work. You know.
Sorry, I think she could hear us laughing and stuff and was like freaking out.
Like what's going on in here?
So I just went and turned on the TV.
I said, those fools laughing. I'll show you how to laugh.
I didn't even cut up. Where were we at, man? What were we talking about?
I don't know.
Oh, we were
It's film.
We were
talking
talking
background
about
acting.
background acting. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll apologize for the break.
No.
Explain why there's like a huge gap, like all of a sudden, like quick splice. You know?
You take some AI and just make like a little AI.
All right, sorry about that. I had to go check on something real quick. But anyway, yeah, man. So let's get back onto the background acting, dude.
Well, originally, because we lived pretty close to Shreveport here, and for a while there, they had that hurricane happen down in New Orleans, and so pretty much the protection went up to Shreveport. And after I got done filming the robot film, I saw there was a Olympus Has Fallen is going on, and I thought, okay, cool. So I applied on there, and I had
the one with Gerald Butler in it.
Yeah. So Jerry Butler. He. My friend, I had told her about it, and she had gotten on. And once you show that you actually show up, I guess same type of thing.
Yeah.
They'll remember that you showed up, and so if you wanted to do another background work, you could do that.
Yeah.
So she vouched for me, and got me on there. And I was a little thinner at the time, and they needed Secret Service agents. So they went in and gave me this shortest haircut I've had probably since I was a little kid, but it looked really good. And so I remember I went in for second unit at 8 in the morning, 7 in the morning. They needed more Secret Service agents, so at 3 in the afternoon, they bumped me to first unit.
Yeah.
Because they needed some more. And so I almost did 24 hours that day of background work. Now, I shouldn't have done this, and I'll own up to it. The director doesn't talk to you, because if the director talks to you, you're an actor. So now you can get SAG minimum. And we're getting paid, $100, whatever it is, $100 a day plus overtime. I'm sure you did overtime, right?
Yeah, I got overtime. I mean, I was there like 14, 16 hours, something like that.
Yeah, because when you get there, it's cheaper just to have you work more than it is to cancel and come the next day and do it again. Because what they're going to pay you is not going to be as much. Yeah. So that's the mindset. So the second AD, or first AD, the AD talks to the background work. So they say
assistant director.
So they say, go be dead in front of the White House. And I'm looking at the door. I'm looking at the column. Saying, well, if I drop dead here next to the column, they got to walk out. They got to walk. And I'm seeing the camera. I'm shining my face at the camera.
You showed me the still frame. Like you literally, like he's literally perched against the wall, and he's like just sitting down. So he's like sitting like back against the wall, and then he just has his head turned like he's dead. He's like, but it's like, so he's clearly on camera. Like
that's awesome.
I'm sure the editor was not happy with that, but it's the AD's fault. And again, a million things are going on.
It's insane. I knew movie sets were busy, but I didn't realize. And I was just on a TV show. It's insane. At any given point, there's like 300 people working. And
in the scene, they're fighting for light. So the light is going away. So at some point, they can't film anymore because this is supposed to be a day shot. Mm-hmm. And so, anyways, I knew all that. And again, I probably shouldn't have done that. But I knew if I did that, I'd get some prime time. And I did. And so I think I was a taxi driver in that film. I was also like in front of the White House when the explosions first happened. Yeah. And I actually got to say something because Jerry Butler said something, and I think hey, it's over there. He has a question. So normally you don't talk to the actors, but he mentioned something. But on what was it? Aaron Eckhart. He was on Batman as Two-Face.
Okay, yeah.
So my friend, I didn't recognize him at all. So we waited to the end to get food for whatever reason. And so he wasn't even on set that day. And my friend sees him, and she can't resist. Says, how you doing? She says, how's it going? How's it going today? So, he was, but he wasn't working that day, but he came for the free food, I guess. And so I thought that was hilarious.
So it's cool they do feed you on the set.
I got to do several films up there doing background, and that told me if I get the chance to go to L.A., that it is possible to get on background there. Mm-hmm. Now, everything is, after the pandemic and streaming, everything has changed. All my friends that work in L.A., sadly, most of them are like just not working right now. There's not work right now. It used to be in August, and that's when I would go at the beginning of August. That was pilot season. Or when they're shooting the first episodes of the series. The Rookie was actually, I think I was on episode 4 or 5, and so it was a brand new series at the time there. So everything's kind of changed now, but here in Texas, if we lived in Austin, I don't know if you still look there. A lot of work in Austin.
Oh, it's insane.
A lot of work in New Orleans. Some work up in Dallas.
Yeah, I got a offer to do. I believe it was in Austin to work on a TV show. I think it's on Apple called Kin, K-I-N.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it, but they were only going to offer me like $80 for a whole day's worth of work, and I was like,
maybe us three could, if we all get on there, then it might be worth driving up together.
Carpool
Carpool up there, that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, because then I started thinking, I was like, well, if I drove there, it's going to take me, I was going to say 3.5 hours to get there one way.
Hotel.
Now, assume I don't stay in a hotel, but I'm going to work
and then be exhausted.
14, 16 hours and then turn around and drive.
Well, I like to get on, was it the Landman? Because that's filmed up in Dallas right now. They need like roughnecks and various things in this thing.
You got the beard, man.
Man, I just drive up there for $80. Again, you're not doing it for the money.
You're doing it for the experience.
Yeah.
But you're right. Then at that point there,
I don't know. 1923 paid pretty well for me. I got about $300 when I was all said and done. I was like, you know what?
Well, they bumped you for a couple things, right?
Yeah.
For your hair. And the people don't realize, like, if they throw water on you, you get a bump. If they make you, like, I went on a set and
if they do anything to you, you get paid more.
I went in my clothes and they told me to change my clothes, and then they said, hey, can you change back to that clothes? And they gave me a bump for that. They gave me a bump one time because the food, even though it was so much food that you could never eat it all, like muffins or what, but if it wasn't hot, they had to give you a bump because they provide you a hot food within 3 hours or whatever it was. And I thought,
they got all kinds of crazy rules out there, man. Like, I'm just like, all right.
One of the coolest ones, I got to be on the Goldbergs, and it was the cowboy episode. So out in this cowboy area, they probably shot a bunch of cowboy films and whatnot like that. So they had horses there and whatnot. So I got up at 3 a.m, got an Uber to middle of nowhere, and I forgot my phone charger. And out there, the phone is just going through it. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get an Uber back. So happily, I'd made, I don't want to say friends, but acquaintance enough to say, can you at least get me to L.A. so I can get an Uber back? And if I can charge my phone, so I can at least, do it at that point. And I was able to get close enough to get an Uber back, but because I don't know what they would have done with me if I couldn't get a ride there. I guess maybe some of the crew would at least might have done that. But I mean, literally, I'm like on my own in LA and just like whatever GPS it gave me to go out there, or a location, that's what I gave the Uber person. And even I got dropped off there. It wasn't at the right place, and one of the tech people gave me a ride to where it was actually the trailer was at for the background work. And they used to be called extras, but it's the same thing. Background
it's
extras.
the same thing. Yeah.
It sounds like a bit of a little.
I liked it. It was fun. It was a cool experience. I've applied for a couple other little things, but sometimes you don't fit like the demographics. Like they may need someone a certain age range or certain gender or
certain accent even.
Yeah.
Like if you do have a speaking role.
Ethnicity is another one. A big one. They'll be like, hey, we need a Hispanic man for this role, which is because it's acting. It's like,
well, they talk about. Appears as that's what I usually say. So appears as 40 years old.
Yeah.
So if you're younger and look older, or you're older and look younger, you might pull that off. So it's interesting on that. But it was a lot of fun. And the second time I got to go out to LA, they only film Monday through Friday, And so
Really?
the weekend, because the weekends are just like, that's like a regular job. The weekends you get off. Now on Friday, what they typically do, because they have to do a 12-hour turnaround.
Yeah.
So that means if you go to midnight, the closest they can start is at noon. So they got to give you 12 hours to go home and rest because, you don't want to have people, be fatigued driving to set after getting 3 hours of sleep.
Sure, absolutely.
So on Friday, they can just go all night. So, because they let you go at 5 o'clock in the morning, it doesn't matter because you're not working the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, I saw they had a game show for Let's Make a Deal, and I thought, I'll go sign up for that. And so I get there, and I have no clothes, so I'll just take my glasses, and I have a suit on and put, like, nerd spaz glasses, like, just wrap up with some tape there, and that was my costume. And they love that I taught the history of rock and roll class and whatnot. And
we didn't even talk about that earlier, because you teach at your university, you teach the history of rock and roll, and it's so cool, man.
Sometimes you hit the lottery of life, and I think I kind of did.
Yeah.
And so I get there, and people. Here's some behind the scenes things. You see all these TV shows. They take a long time to record, so they actually pay people to go there. So like all these wannabe actors or people that need money for their cat dialysis or whatever, they would go work and sit there for a TV show like Let's Make a Deal or some a talk show or whatever.
Get paid $100, whatever.
Now they use the Clydes, the people that go there on tour that will go there for free. They'll take you for free. So that was basically me. I just went there for free, and I didn't see the line where they're getting paid, but they put a little X. If you get paid, that means you can't get picked to be a contestant.
Oh, okay.
Because you're getting paid to be there, or if they do, then it means you don't get paid if you get to be a contestant.
Yeah.
So going there, I'm talking. They're doing an audition basically, and looking for somebody who has some energy. And one reason y'all picked me to come here, got some energy going on.
Sure. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
you get people like, I'm a nurse or whatever. And then, yeah, she's just rock and roll.
We want you.
So
bring that guy in.
Yeah.
we go to a location. The set is so we get on a bus. We have to leave our phones there and take a bus to the actual studio. And they sit us around. They tell us where to sit. When Wayne Brady calls my name Herbert, I don't even think he's talking to me because like
you're looking around like Herbert, where's he at?
Where's
he at?
So, anyways, it was fun because I loved that show as a kid, and I used to watch Let's Make a Deal as a kid, and to actually be there. So that was a really cool experience. And I think one thing I would share with folks out there, if you want to do some things, go out there and do it.
Yeah, that's one thing I've kind of learned in life is, honestly, I mean, yeah, there's realistic things like you got bills, you got things you got to take care of. But for the most part, if you just want to change something, you can just decide to do it and just do it.
I don't know if I can make a living as a background actor.
I don't think anybody can, bro.
But you can have a lot of fun. And here's the three people. I think I told you this.
Yeah.
Here's the three people. I don't know if you witnessed this. That are background actors. They're wannabe actors, kind of like me.
Yep, saw a lot of that.
A lot of wannabe actors that just hoping you get a line.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you get people that could care less. They don't even want to be on screen, but they want to pay their cat dialysis. they're just there for the check.
Just that check.
They're just there for the money. They're very, hey, who's volunteering? They never volunteer. They're reading their book, whatever. They don't even want to go on set.
I'm here for the $80.
Then you get the other. These are the weirdos that I don't even know how they found this work.
Like stumbled in there.
They're not really actors. They're really for the paycheck, but they're just weirdos that are just there.
Yeah.
And
I saw a lot of like diehard fans when I was on 1923, and it was a lot of women actually. And then what was crazy is for the most part, like I did not ever even watch the show before I went to the set. So I get there, and the majority of people working there are like super diehard fans, and they're talking about, oh, what do you think this season's going to be about? Because they don't ever give any of the background workers. You don't get the script. You don't even know what you're doing. Like you just know that little like 2-minute scene that you're filming, and then that's it. And so they're like talking about like, this character, that character, like really trying to like get in depth. And they're like, what do you think? And I was like, I have no idea who these people are. And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, I've never seen this show, man. And so I ended up like filming it and then leaving, and then I had to go back and watch it. So
yeah, I thought
it was a pretty good show.
I thought the season, it didn't end exactly the way I thought it would, But the thing about those shows is everybody just dies, you know.
I never even finished season 2. I ain't gonna lie. I got to my part, and then I was like, yeah, I've seen all I need to see.
Were you there with the young lady that was because you were on the train, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
When she gets like falsely accused of some stuff,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she gets off the train and is running.
Spoilers, it didn't end well for her.
Yeah.
I'll just put it that way. It doesn't end well for
Yeah,
most
but like
people.
when she's looking up like for another train or whatever, like there's like this scene. It's at that I think 45-second mark. If you look, there's a dude to her like when you're looking at it to the left, wearing a gray fedora, but his head turned to the side. That's me. I don't have any facial hair, obviously, but yeah, I was like, cool, man, Paramount Plus. Thanks. You know?
No, I think it's a cool experience, and like
it was cool. I learned a lot about film. I learned in that moment I never want to be a director. I don't think I could do it, man. I think I'd lose my mind on set, dude.
You can do baby steps. Like you can do a 2-minute film is completely different than doing a 45-minute high production, art directed heavy.
A Michael Bay film.
Yeah.
Just every day. It's just like pulling your hair out.
Just shooting dinner with Andre where 2 people are talking. It's slightly easier to pull that off.
No,
Well,
yeah, I can see that for sure, man.
It's really fun, and I think the thing like this, like, maybe you can't afford to be a background actor forever, but if you're a fan, like, let's go back to Olympus Has Fallen. There were some Jerry Butler fans that were there, and they would camp out just to look at him, and I would go to him, just sign up to be a background actor.
Yeah.
Then you're on set,
True.
and you get paid.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Yeah,
you
he'll
know,
be walking all around you all day. Like, there you go, you know?
You know, so like it was interesting.
Yeah, dude, they had us film a Chicago train scene that was based in the wintertime. Dude, we filmed that in Galveston in August. And it's kind of hard to tell, you know, because they do their editing and all that stuff. But everyone on that set is like on the verge of having a heat stroke. Because we're wearing like 3, sometimes 4 layers of clothing.
And you're sweating probably.
Mm-hmm.
And are they hydrating you pretty well?
Yeah, I mean they were having it like cut so many times, like take breaks, and they'd be like, all right, everybody, like wipe your faces off in the sweat, like drink a bottle of water, like we're gonna go, and they would only go for like 10 minutes, and they'd be like, all right, everybody get back inside the building, and then they'd like have you cool off, like everyone wearing costumes, because you got to think, man, like I'm wearing an undershirt, I'm wearing a dress shirt, then I'm wearing my suit, and then I'm wearing a winter coat on top of that, plus the hat, plus the slacks, all that stuff, and then you're in dress shoes, so basically you're pretty like
You're cooking.
yeah, you're boiling in that thing, you know? But it was a cool experience. I liked it. I mean, everyone was like really professional. They were really cool.
Well, I get to can't talk to the talent or talk to the higher-ups, but the grips, people that do sound. I mean, I was able to talk to them. A lot of them are filmmakers. A lot of them went to film school also.
Yep.
And so it's interesting to have a chance. And actually, I networked with a lot of people there. I got some Instagrams. I remember seeing network with this one young lady, and I saw her clear as a bell on the morning show. And there she is right there, and I said, "Hey, I just watched the morning show. I saw you saw this scene of that." So it's kind of cool to do that. And anyway, so it's kind of cool to network because you just don't know, and they don't know either. I mean, if I ever have any real money to do something, people that you know, you can always potentially hire.
Yeah, sure.
And so for them, it's kind of good to have that ability to network and whatnot.
Hey, whenever you make a robot film part 2, man.
Well, I think we should definitely make a short film because I think this area has a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, it's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of potential.
Be some fun things going on. Well, I guess real quick, this at least mention a little bit about higher education. That
because I know this is something you really wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I think the idea is like this: is that if you're a young person wanting to go to school, I'll just give you my background. My dad was in the military. His basically his birthday came up, and he knew he was going to get drafted, so he just joined up. Yeah. And I asked him before, "Hey, did you ever think about going to college?" He's like, "Nah, I couldn't wait to get out of high school." At that time, they didn't recruit. They didn't come over, anything like that to the schools, really, not at least where he was at. And so here I am, wanting to go to college. I really don't know anybody that's in college or that went to college, but I did know this: they had colleges, and they obviously want students. They're obviously so. If I just go there, surely someone will help me figure out how to do it.
Yeah. This is like this is the thing we do here,
But part of that is having a tenacity to just go, just show up. Mm-hmm. So I went over there, I went to admissions, and they say, go over the financial aid, go do this. Sign up for these classes here. And I think within that day or soon after, I was enrolled.
Yeah.
Well, then I would lace up other people that were wanting to go to school because I knew how to do this.
Yeah.
And so this is how you're able to go there. And it's not hard to do. Today, there's so many folks that try to help, and I think in some aspects, if you really want it, you will find a way to make it happen.
That's true.
And maybe having that little bit of investment, because I see a lot of folks, their parents do everything for them.
Yep, I've seen a lot of that.
And if you don't really want it yet, and it's okay if you don't want it yet, if you need to take a gap year, if you go work a hard manual labor job and say, hey.
I mean, I've known guys that have taken breaks in the middle of their education and be like, I just need to take a year off. Go to work, do whatever you need to do, readjust, come back.
I mean, for myself, it took me 6 years to get an undergraduate degree because I was broke. I worked. And I think I got a little bit of a scholarship, but not much. And so, I worked at student jobs and things like that to be able to afford to go. And at the end of that, I felt, this is something that I put time in and made this thing happen.
Yeah.
And so in some ways, you think that, well, maybe that's a worse situation. Now, in some ways, I think it's a better situation for that. So for the folks that want to go out there and get your baccalaureate degree, I will tell you, there are people that will help you. Figure out what school you want to go to. Maybe it's location you're at or degree that you want to work on. Find a way there's ways for the financial aid to get there. And also, I think the bigger one, pick something that you like enough to be able to finish. If you really like whatever it is, if you want to be a filmmaker, if you like chemistry, if you like communications or whatever, pick a degree that you like enough that you'll be able to finish. And if some setback comes back and communications didn't work out, maybe you can go to filmmaking or maybe you go into something else.
Yeah, roll them credits into something else, man.
And if it takes you a little bit longer, another semester, it doesn't matter that much.
It's not a big deal.
It might cost you a little bit more. So, and also later on, if you want to get a master's degree or go get a doctorate, everybody I've met in my life that can read can earn a doctorate. It just depends how much you want to read, how much you want to write, and how much you want to be away from your family.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to do that, you too could have, the honorific of doctor before your name.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a magical mystery tour of how to figure that out. Now, medical doctor's a little bit different.
I am not envious of those people.
That's a little bit different situation. But if you're doing something in academia, it's not unattainable. It is very attainable. So if you want to be able to do some things in life, you absolutely can. And just have that tenacity. And especially when people tell you no. That should in some ways just say, you know what? I had a lot of people say you couldn't get any distribution on your robot film. It's not that good of a film. All these things. And honestly, if I had a few people, some of the people say, hey, you know what? It's a good film. Maybe it wasn't quite there, on some aspects, but But I had some people that say, all right, they said it was not very good at all. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to get this thing. I'm going to get some distribution. I'm going to show you there's an audience for this thing.
Mm-hmm. Amazon, baby. Woo!
And now Tubi is the new place where you get on there because the idea of the ads that pay for it, I don't think they even care what content they're showing as long as they're making most of the money from the ads and you get a little bit of cents off of it or whatever it is.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So.
How hard was it to get on Tubi?
You got a heartbeat. If you got some content and a heartbeat, I mean, you probably could turn these podcasts into a Tubi experience.
Be like, everybody's joking, laughing and freaking out about Kill Tony being on Netflix. Be like, Dumpster Diaries Podcast is on Tubi. Dude, that could actually be pretty good. Do a live show, Yeah,
so it's and I don't know how long Tubi is the new dance. I mean, things come and go, and so I'm always kind of looking at. And I always hope to have a distribution model for that film because I did spend a lot of time in. I remember I had a teacher say that he doesn't compose music to sit on the shelf. Well, if you make something, you want people to see it.
Yeah. It's the whole point of making art.
You put so much time into it, and happily, YouTube is a good way to just put things out. You can put things out relatively easy, and if it's good, it'll find an audience. But yeah, just go out there and be tenacious. If you want to go to school, you can find a way. If you don't have a GED, you don't have a high school diploma, find one. Find a way to make it happen. Find a way. There are folks out there that will help you be successful if you're willing to ask for it and you're willing to show up and do things.
Dude, that's like literally like 90% of it. Just ask and then just show up. That's it.
And consistency.
Yeah, you don't even really have to be, in my opinion, for success, the people that I found to be truly successful, okay, yeah, there's anomalies and stuff out there, but the people that I would consider to be truly successful in life, they were average performers. They just showed up and they were consistent.
And they cared.
Yeah,
The students that I see every day, I know they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Because they show up every day.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that pay attention, the ones that study, and they're going to be fine. And, to me, I don't, because I wasn't this way, because I paid for school. I went to every class because my goal was to learn. I don't care what subject it was. I'm paying for this. And so I'm going to show up every day and get an education, be someone that's well-versed in multiple things. Well, and to me, it's surprising where folks go, but that just tells me they're probably not paying for it.
Yeah.
They're probably that, if you, my analogy like this, if it costs you $20 a day to go to a college class, it's like buying a pizza and you don't go pick it up.
Yeah.
How often would you pay $20 for a pizza and not go drive and pick it up?
Yeah. Well, that's one thing, you mentioned, you went to college in the early 90s and, you mentioned you paid for it yourself. Now, there's no secret, the cost of tuition has skyrocketed.
Oh, let me tell you how much. I was in California at the time because my dad was stationed out there, Travis Air Force Base.
Yeah,
been there. You've been to Travis? Yeah, I remember David Grant. That was sadly the hospital that a lot of the folks from Vietnam came to. And it looked like an old reformatory, like you could make a horror film. Because they built a new one when we got there.
It's most military bases.
True.
I was lucky. I was only passing through there. I was not there for a long time.
Yeah, so I was out there in California. So would you like to guess how much my first year at a community college was in California in 1990? 1989.
2 semesters?
Oh, it was 1 semester.
1 semester? I know it's
$1,000.
500?
2? $100?
35?
Jesus.
What do we
It was 50. It was 50. I think it was $55 for up to 19 and a half hours. That you could take.
Wow.
How did you work that?
That was
That's
California.
the price?
That was California for community college. It was $55, and I thought that was a lot because high school was free. My most expensive book was $35, and I thought that was a lot because they used to just give me books in high school. So I say that because I do realize that. I'll be honest. If it was even $500, that would have been a more of a struggle. I probably would have got a job at Burger King or something like that just to.
Yeah,
if they would let me do time to pay it off, because I wanted it. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to study music theory. I wanted to be a composer. So, but I do say that it was a little easier when it's $50. Now I'll say this: the time that when we left. California went bankrupt, and I think that's part of it was all that free college we were giving out, basically.
Hey, some people benefited off of it in one way.
If you think about this, that even in the 90s, but let's go back like in the 70s or 60s even, the percentage of people that went to college was less. My grandpa was really proud of his high school diploma because most people didn't get a high school diploma in the 30s.
Yeah.
That was like a big accomplishment to get that. And so the number of people who went to college in the 30s, 40s, 50s,
drops off significantly.
Was very, very low. So if the state is giving this amount of money and there's less people, well, then the cost could be pretty low. But at some point, the idea that everybody needs to go to university.
Yeah.
And so all these technical schools basically have turned into a small little university. Instead of teaching you welding, they're doing, you major in English or whatever else going on. And I do kind of question that if you want to be in university, I don't even care if you were a poor student in high school. If you want to be there, you can succeed. But if you were like my dad, you couldn't wait to get out of school and don't want to go to school, you should have a talk with the people that you care about and figure out what would be something that would work. And I think, and I've seen these, they call them non-traditional students. Like all of us would be non-traditional students because we're not 18 anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But some people go work a regular life, work in a factory, go work whatever, or low-paying jobs. Say, you know what, I think I want more in my life, so I'm going to go get a speech pathology degree. Mm-hmm. And that degree there specifically, you can work. If you do special education, if you want to get a teaching credential, you can work.
Yeah.
There are certain things. Nursing's another one. If you're willing to be an LVN or RN nurse, you can work. So there are certain degrees that are right away that you can do that. If you get a degree in history, if you get a teacher credential, you can work right away. So anyways, there are certain ones like that you know that you can go into. And I run into students that are non-traditional students that I'm working to become this, I'm working to become that, to be able to have this betterment of my life going on.
For sure.
So that's a thought process that just have tenacity. But I do want to declare that I did, my first couple of years were pretty economical. I would like to think a lot of folks say it's $50. I got $50.
I personally know some students, like just for their undergrad, they're $75,000, $80,000 in debt.
Oh, I'm sure there's some there are 100,000 plus in debt. And
that's even at like a small university that I went to. I mean, what scheme of things?
What I would do, honestly, and this is what we used to do in the 90s.
Powerball tickets. Got it.
Is, once you can move off campus, get you 6 people in a room, and you're just there to sleep and shower, and you go to the library and you're studying. Your job is to study and be a student and get out of there. If you want to work a job, part-time job or whatever, that's fine. But your job is to have your finances as low as possible. And I can understand this. You get a loan because people don't understand loans. They don't. The one thing that they never talk about in public school when I was in high school, I know probably the same for you all as well. You don't talk about money.
Never. No, not at all.
Never.
In 6th grade, they taught me how to write a check, and that was about it. Here's how you put your name, and here's how you write out the amount, and that was economics 101 there, basically, how to write a check. I don't even think they even teach people how to write a check today because no one writes checks anymore. But the idea that when you take a loan, it's something called a loan. That means you pay it back. You take a loan for a house, you have to pay it back, or they take the house. Same with a car loan. Grants are great because that's money you don't have to pay back. If you work if you're in the military, there's a certain level of education you get. I forgot how long it is, but
it's like 36 months.
And there's even BOH rights potentially, I can't remember what that stands for. That's with housing, right? Basically.
Yeah, you basically get a little
basic housing allowance.
Yeah, you get a little bit of money every month to help cover cost of living.
Now, if you're willing to go into the military, you can go. There's ROTC places all the time, all over these universities, and they are always looking for people that are willing to make a commitment to pay for your school.
There's a way to do it, man. That's kind of my attitude, especially when young people are like complaining or whatever, and I'm like, you got options, you just don't want to take up any of those options.
Yes. I don't want to do that. Well, cool. I mean, then
that's fine, but don't complain.
And you can go work a fast food job
for sure
and save up. And be able to go to things, and it might take you a little bit longer to do that. But it gets down to what's your tenacity. And I do look at a lot of young people today, and I do kind of question man, what are you going to do when you're my age? What do you have for a future? The pensions are basically gone.
Yeah.
403s are not good, honestly. They're not anything close to what a pension was. Social Security is probably going to be past.
It's going to be dried up.
I don't expect it to be there in 10 years.
No. You and I are never going to see that.
that check is going to bounce hard, brother.
And so let's say it's there. It's going to be 67, 68 by the time you get there.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I tell people this. The reason why they had 65, and y'all probably know this, when they started Social Security at 65, because statistically most people were dead at 60.
Yeah, the mortality rate.
Yeah. So
I thought it started at 62. back in the years ago.
I think it was always 65, but
Was it always
the
65?
maternal, but people died at 60. So like today, people die at
74.
I think it's, yeah, 70 something.
So it'd be like, hey, we'll give you, at 80, we'll give you a pension.
Yeah.
If you haven't lived 5 years past your
What kind of
expiration
freaking
date.
Ponzi scheme are we running here, man? All right, Madoff. Who do you got running that? Bernie Madoff?
So the idea of figuring out how to prepare for your future, a lot of the folks have, and I do understand you're making a very meager amount of money,
Sure.
that mindsets. But I think back to my grandparents that were in the Depression, how they sacrificed. They didn't buy things. They would turn off the lights.
Yeah.
They would sit in a house. They sit in a house that's hot.
Yeah, I remember hearing stories from my old man about his grandparents, my great-grandparents. Now, they came up during the Depression and well into their adult lives. Now, I never met these people were long gone before I even came in the picture. But he said that they would literally share their same bathwater.
Absolutely.
It was like a common thing, and I was like, "What?"
My grandmother would wash and reuse tinfoil and Ziploc bags.
Yes.
Until they were just falling apart.
I asked my granny what her favorite invention was, and she said, without hesitation, paper towels. Because as a kid, she had to wash rags.
Oh,
to
yeah.
reuse wet rags. So when you got to a paper towel, that was like a magical, invention for her in her lifetime. So
It's crazy how it's changed so much. Just in 100 years, which I know is a long time, but in the whole grand scheme of things, it's really not that long.
Well,
that's 2 people ago, man.
Well, the idea of having that grit. And I do find young people that do have grit. I do find young people that I'm not afraid of the future. There's going to be some young people that's going to step up for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But for a lot of other folks, I kind of just question, man, and if AI comes around and takes away a majority of the jobs that are out there, if you think of I don't know, I'll take one out, a paralegal job.
Yeah.
AI can do a pretty good job at doing a lot of the things that a paralegal can do.
Mm-hmm.
But, radio technician, doing, checking out, doing x-rays on people, less.
Yeah, my thing is when it becomes a really physical thing that you have to do, right? AI is cool, and everybody's okay, it's going to replace everything, and it's going to run the whole world, and we're going to go to universal basic income. I'm yeah, but it can't run Cat5 cables through walls.
No.
You need IT guys to do that. They can't wire a house. They can't fix plumbing somewhere.
Until the machines override.
Okay, now that's when we get Skynet dropping, right?
well, the idea of a pre-K teacher. I just don't see AI taking over that because mainly it's classroom management, honestly.
Yeah.
Now, you may use AI to help instruct various parts of it, but you still need a teacher there. Hey, get on task, or do this, or do that.
Yeah. Sit down.
so I think in a lot of ways, education, if you're willing to be a teacher, is kind of AI-proof in some aspects. I have people kind of disagree with me, but I've taught public school. You need a body there to be able to be in control. I can't see a band director being controlled by AI. There's a certain skill set of being a band director, choir director, whatever it is.
Now, I'll tell you this: if I was a software engineer or something like that, I would be pretty worried right now.
I think the person
programmers.
I think if the ones that are really good will still need to proof it and conceptually be able to communicate with
Absolutely, 100%. You're never going to get rid of 100% of people, but I could see a reduction in 70%.
So that programmer could be in charge of 4 other robots doing other jobs. So it'll basically just it'll increase the workload for one individual while managing other AI forms, but there will still be a need for a human being.
I have some friends in Hollywood that are my Hollywood friends that are really against AI because they knew what was going to happen.
Sure.
Really honestly, the background work they did for that, they could have done a lot of that with CGI.
Mm-hmm.
And now with AI, they could even do it even easier with that. And so it's going to put people out of work. They could just take a picture of your likeness.
That's what gets me.
And then
there's deep fakes.
And it's just going to get better and better and better.
I saw a speech the other day by Trump. I couldn't even tell it was fake unless you paid attention to the content on which he was talking about.
Well, hell, Joe Rogan selling those fake supplements that he's never even talked about in his life, but they're running commercials on him all the time.
Oh, I see. They come across my feed all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
And fortunately, you're smart enough right now to think, nah, that person would never say that or do that.
And it's still able, if you look at it normally, something is still a little off. It's not completely 100% indistinguishable.
It's a little,
yet.
Yeah, it's a little messed up. Like I usually notice it in the lip movement. Like it'll just be a little messed up. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
But
right.
they showed, was it Will Smith eating spaghetti like a year or two ago, and it's ridiculous. And
I remember that.
And then now someone eats spaghetti. It looks
it was
spot on with a beard, even.
Yep.
You
Yeah,
know?
I remember seeing that. Yeah.
And so it's going to get to a point that way. But also, like this, let's go back to music. Sampling was one of the big things, and so they. I remember I was in California at the time. At the $50 school, and they were hiring people to record horn or trumpet to use as a sample on this sound module.
Yeah.
And people were, I forgot what they were paying, $100, $500, whatever it was. But there were some people that didn't take it. I'm thinking, you might as well take the money because someone's going to do it.
Yeah.
And that's just life. Rock and roll came around because jazz went out of the way. And then, new music, there's always the new thing going on, and you will adapt to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the one aspect of being able to critically think and analyze things can help you regardless of what's going on. And I'm looking forward to this AI revolution to see what actually is going to happen, because it would be cool to take this content here and have it zoom in and do all these take all these clicks.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And then and do something.
You can
amazing.
do all the there's already stuff out there where it can just do editing for you. Like you can run like an entire podcast through some AI software, and it will pick out clips for you. It'll find where the jokes are. It'll find where the puns are. Like, and it'll be like, here you go, And then it's like, then you look at, okay, it can do video splicing too, because eventually, like the next phase, because we do one still frame here, but like the next phase that we're going to do is we're actually going to have multiple camera angles. So like when Moses talks, it'll focus on him. When I talk, it'll focus on me, and then the guest as well.
But there's already AI programs that if we were to have that footage already, it would be able to distinguish each voice and put the camera on them and automatically have all that already.
I mean, that's game changer. And again, I think about that as this saving me time.
Exactly.
Computers have saved me time since Commodore 64.
Yeah.
And so the idea of me using computers, one reason why I got into computers heavily was because I couldn't afford an orchestra, but I could use the synthesized sounds to be able to make music. And so that just saved me a lot of time. So when I finally got in front of an orchestra, I kind of knew that it was, pretty much it was polished at that point. So it's going to be interesting to see that. I'm looking forward to that. It'd be cool to shoot all my raw footage and just throw it in there and say,
and see what it does.
Dude.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy editing. I do enjoy editing, but it is a very time-consuming part. And I got certain tricks of the trade I've done over the years. But if it could get me like 90% there, and it's got to go massage the rest of it, that's a major time savings.
Absolutely.
Even right now, the idea of putting our subtitles is that that's such a time-consuming part that in old days you had to type everything in there. For the robot film, I had to type in the subtitles.
Oh gosh! So you just basically retype your entire script.
Yeah.
Much.
So basically, I went in and go in there and listen to it and put it in there and put in like music, because like part of the thing to make a DVD, you needed to have some type of subtitles. And I think even for Amazon at the time, I needed subtitles for ADA compliance and whatnot. So just did that today. Going to YouTube, if it's got some decent audio like this, it's going to do a great job. Zoom does a great job at doing transcripts.
Yeah, even RSS has an auto transcript feature. I use that every time.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's very proficient also. There's a, basically you can have it in the higher end, which it literally takes 30 minutes to have a complete, and I would say 98% accurate transcript of each of our podcasts, and it does it in under 30 minutes, and it's done.
Giving away our trade secrets.
Well, what I do also for myself, the last couple of years I've done this, is record my lectures, and I don't even care about the video part of it. What I care about is the transcript, because I'm interested in how I teach one class versus another class, and I got some transcripts from 10 years ago from teaching the same class, and go through there and analyze. What did I do different 10 years ago versus today? And I could have done that manually, but with AI, it can go through that data very quickly and summarize it very quickly for me. So it's pretty fascinating that, and I'm doing that to improve myself as a teacher, to kind of figure out what am I doing better, what could I improve upon. I do ask myself, hey, today I didn't do a very good job teaching that. I could just give up, or what could I do to make this better?
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the aspects of things that to get better at things, to work on that. And just like, what podcast is this range number-wise for y'all?
Oh, number?
This
would be about 91.
Okay.
91.
So slightly better than number one?
Absolutely.
Just a little bit better?
It's a lot better.
Yeah. So
if you watch our first episode, it's rough.
my first time teaching was rough. And so, the students today are getting a lot more seasoned teacher today than they did in 2002.
And then we also have, I think, like over 400 shorts, too. And they're all different jokes, and they're not clips from the show. So they're completely separate from, like, the actual show.
So, again, every time you do it, it's better and easier to
No, yeah. If you go and look at, like, the first couple of ones, and then you look at what we got now, like, it's a lot better. So and that's kind of gets me excited, too, because I'm like, oh, well, we've been doing it for 2 years. I'm like, well, what's it going to be like in another year or two?
Well, the consistency of it, and I've known several people that actually spent a lot of money making a podcast, and it didn't hit right away, so they just stopped.
Yeah.
Because it is hard work.
Yeah, I think on average it's like 5 years before you earn like your first dollar, basically, Yeah.
Well, I know the ads space has changed a lot. Like, I don't know if you want to sell razors or whatever. There's certain ads I've heard a lot on some of these podcasts.
So like some hair growth hormone stuff or whatever,
Hymns.
Yeah, that's everywhere.
Yeah.
Blue Chew.
Yeah, that's it.
So they got certain. I guess they just whatever code you put in, that's how they get paid potentially, right? On there, like you make a code for your podcast and you type that in there and get that. So
hey, we're always looking for people
that
sponsor
that AdSense type things, and it really is interesting to see this space. But I think back to Andy Warhol saying that everybody get 15 minutes of fame, and now in a lot of aspects I think he was a little underestimated in some aspects. So you want to be able to do stuff. You got the floor now to be able to make what happened.
Yeah, that's very true.
Some of the people I've seen blown up over the years that I was following early on, I'm just like, gosh, like how the internet's just a weird thing, man. Yeah,
and like you were talking about earlier, it's like you don't know what's gonna be successful or not. Like even sometimes you're like, nah, this is pointless. I don't know why I'm doing this. But then that's gonna be the one that sets you apart.
Well, it's like I know tons of people that create great content, right? But they don't get a whole lot of following on their channel. But then they'll be like somebody who just like, I don't know, shows like a duck waddling across like a sidewalk, and then it's just like
4.5 million views.
With a 2.7 million subscribers, and it's some like 16-year-old kid out in like Southern California cashing multi-million-dollar checks every month or whatever,
Well, one of the things that I've noticed between my writing and acting and filmmaking and music creation, songwriting, is the idea of my first instinct is usually the correct one. So when I hear a piece of music in my head, when I write music for guitar or whatever it is, I usually go with my first instinct unless there's some major reason I can negate it. It's kind of like when you take a standardized test. Your first guess or instinct is usually the right answer. Yeah. Unless you can say, no, that was wrong because of this. And I think in a lot of ways, things become viral. There's an innate part of it. When I make a really quick part with my camera, my phone, and just say something, whatever, off the cuff, there was something organic about it, intuitively, that needed to come out. And that can resonate with the audience.
People can tell. That's why we don't really like script our show. Like we'll start off, we'll be like, okay, like a couple talking points, whatever it may be. But when it's scripted, I don't know. I don't like it. We've done scripted shows where usually it's like when I'm trying to like explain something. Like we did one over like who is J.D. Vance. Yeah. And so when he was announced to be the Vice President of the United States, no one knew who he was. So I went and basically just wrote like a biography about him. And I can't remember, it was like 7 or 8 pages long. And I just read it, and Moses and I just kind of analyzed every little piece that I read, But like, this is where he was born, this is what he did, this is basically how he came, his origin story, how he came to be, you know. But people can tell when it's fake and when it's not. And like now that we've been doing this for so long, I've gotten pretty good at seeing that too. Because there's like some podcasts where it'll look like it's some organic stuff. It'll be like, okay. And then, but you're kind of like, nah, I can see what you're doing right here behind the scenes, you know?
Well, it's like I can walk on set and tell if you're getting good audio by looking at where the microphone's at. I can tell by looking at the lens what you're doing. I can look at the lighting.
Yeah.
Because I've just done it enough to tell what's going on. And you say, well, you know, that boom is really far away. That audio is going to be pretty horrible. And it's not hard, but if you haven't done it before, you wouldn't notice.
Yeah, it just takes learning and being in that position and actually doing the things.
Yeah. Honestly, from my experience, like I guess our experience is just a lot of mistakes. Because then you're like, okay, I'm never going to make that mistake again, you know, and you just keep going, you know. But I'm telling you, like, especially in our studio, we got like a little fairy in here, like a troll or something, man, that we can't see because I'm telling you, like, every day we come in, there's like a new problem. And we don't touch anything. Like, once we pack up for like our last interview for the day that we're doing or whatever, we're like, okay, nobody touch any knobs on the mixers.
We only turn off the TV at this point. We're like, do not touch anything else. Like,
yeah, and then we'll come in the next time and it'll be like, something's off or whatever, and you'll be like, oh my gosh.
Like, why is this an audio issue now?
And one of the worst things one of the worst feelings is recording an entire episode and then the audio being jacked up.
Yeah.
And then you find out later, and then especially if it's jacked up so much where it's like, oh, this is like, you can't recover from this.
Yeah.
You know, that's where it's like soul-crushing defeat, you know?
Yeah, I do redundancies. Usually when I make films, I do some type of redundancy to make sure I got some audio there. And sometimes it's as simple as like they call it while lines, but basically just have the person read the lines directly into the microphone. That way, anything on the set's bad. Usually, most actors say it in the same cadence, or enough where I can do this and then go to your coverage as you're talking, and so I can cheat around that if I got the wild lines out there, basically that I can use for later on. So it's this gets, you know, again, I know I'm happy I'm here at 91 instead of 1 because I know this is a more polished podcast.
Well, thank you. That's a loose term there. I wouldn't say well polished, but it's all right, man. I mean, well, for the first, because we've been doing it for 2 years. Well, July will be 2 years. And so for the first year and a half, we didn't breathe a word of it to anybody. We just put it online, let it grow. And then a couple of people saw it. And then once in a while, I started getting recognized because we had a few shorts that went kind of viral. And a couple of kids were like, hey, do you have a YouTube channel? I was like, what did you see? we in some of our shorts, we say some pretty crazy stuff. And it's a comedy satire page. So like, we talk about, we'd make fun of politics on both the left and the right, and sometimes some of our verbiage, it's labeled for a mature audience. Let's just put it that way, And so you never know what someone's going to come across. So when some guy stops me, he's like, hey, you got a YouTube channel? You're like, oh, because you don't know where their sense of humor is. You don't know if they can look at it and be like, okay, it's clearly a joke. And like I had to explain to one guy, because he did get kind of offended one time by something that we produced. And he was like, yeah, he's like, I think that's like misinformation, man. I was like, okay, well, one, the video is literally labeled as satire. Big step there, right? And I was like, so you need to be able to tell, like, hey, like this is obviously not something like a credible source, right? Now, like we're talking to you, this is like a legit interview. This is different from that.
Which all of our podcasts are all legitimate information. It's just the shorts we tend to err on the side of satirical or entertaining.
Yeah, but the guy like told me, he was like, oh, like I feel like it's just misinformation or whatever, and I was like, okay. And then he was kind of talking about it, and I was like, you have to understand, like, that's a person acting in a 30-second skit, essentially. You're talking to the real human being in front of you right now. Like, kind of different people to some degree, Like, I like to be pretty authentic on my show, but, like, how I am on the show and how I say things on the show, like, the mannerisms and the way I speak, is not exactly how I am in person. In person, I'm a little more like, whatever, to each his own, But, like, on the show, we kind of go a little hardcore with some stuff.
It's like myself. There's the multiple hats I wear as academic and teacher, the internet legend, and that persona of it's different. So like there's the human being. There's a Paul Rubens and there's a Pee Wee Herman. And
sure.
Two different. One's the kind of more the skit, the one's the real person in there. So like the real person you have a conversation with, and sometimes people don't understand that or get that, and so it's I understand. I remember one time, this was a long time ago. This was back when I was on Tech TV, and so I'm walking past Dairy Queen going to the gym or whatever, and so, hey, I saw you on TV. And said, oh, did you see me on Tech TV? And said, no, you were two other guys. So he was talking about the whatever TV show. He caught with an antenna.
And then it's like 2 seconds to be like, whoa, okay.
And I thought, okay, well, I think, wow, I think he was the first one that recognized me.
It's
from
kind of cool when it
that
happens.
TV show. Yeah. So it's like, what content are you talking about at this point? So it's this, yeah, and sometimes. One of my biggest things that's interesting, because I have this fire hydrant next to my office I go shoot a lot of content next to.
I'm very familiar with what you're talking about.
and people honk. And I kind of think, what do you want me to do?
Well, because, okay, so this for the people who don't know, his office is right on the main street in the city, right? And, like the main strip. And there's a fire hydrant out front of his office that he records a bunch of stuff. So he'll just make little videos because he posts a video a day on YouTube. And it'll be like him playing guitar or something, or giving some words of encouragement. It's always different stuff, and so you can literally drive by like on this strip like on a daily basis and see the internet legend out there making videos. It's pretty cool.
And my question's like this again. I'm not mad, but like you're honking at me. What do you want me to do? Like, hey, pull over.
Yeah.
Come be in this video with me. You know, or now I got to shoot that part again. Mm-hmm. At minimum, that's the minimum thing I'm doing. And the reason why I use a fire hydrant because I used to play around with a lot of manual lenses. So I need something in focus to go back on the camera to focus on. Then I can walk in there and know that's in focus. so that's the reason. And I just kind of got used to being there. So I use that fire hydrant as a focus point more than anything else. But it's just I always kind of wondered, what are these individuals want to do other than to say hi and they like you. And so that's the part that I early on, like 25 years ago, I kind of if I put stuff out there, I got to realize that there are people who are going to see you, and if they come up to you, they want that experience. So like one of the I don't drink, but one of the bars I go to is because I'm bored or whatever and hang out and talk to people. I have people come up to me and want to get a photo with me.
Yeah. Well, because like the bar you're talking about is like a really popular like college bar.
Yeah.
So like a lot of like a lot of staff from the university goes there as well as students and alumni.
A lot of former students are there.
It's a really mixed crowd of people.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're just sitting at the bar by yourself alone.
No.
Staring at a glass of water.
I got friends that are I don't even get water because I don't want to give a tip. But anyways, that's some of the tricks of the trade there. So I think like maybe twice a month I buy some food or whatever. But anyways. And so, like, when someone comes in and wants to get a photo with me and whatnot like that, and it doesn't have a whole lot, but it is an interesting mindset that they just that's the way they're saying that they like you. Mm-hmm. They like your content, they like your energy, or something about you, and you take that as a positive part. And I, happily, it's not all the time. I can't imagine someone who's like Tom Cruise famous or someone that you literally can't do anything.
You can't do anything. Like, the best thing you can do is build a compound, and then you have to pay everyone to go to the outside world to get whatever you need. You'd be like, hey, I want some
Chicken Express.
Flaming hot Cheetos. Like, go get them for me, because you can't even go to a gas station.
You think at one time, like Elvis Presley being so famous, and he, dressed very loud, so much so that, his wife would be next to him and you wouldn't even notice her at all. And what Elvis would do is like he'd sign autographs, but he would always say, walk with me. Because he realized if he stopped, he could never leave.
He would get mobbed.
So he'd do 2 or 3 autographs as he walks to the car. And that way, if he wasn't mean or rude, and he was able to accomplish that and go there. And happy I'm not even anything close to that at all. So
not yet, not until this airs. Once this airs, it's
the internet legend.
if people want a photograph, at 50 of them, I'm happy to do that. But it's an interesting idea of fame and the idea of it being, in some ways, an albatross around you. In some ways, like for me, in my town, people know me, and so if I go on a bike ride or whatever, odds are someone's going to say, hey, I saw you do this. Or I get this, hey, I drove past you doing this.
Yeah, out of that entire town, you're like the one dude that could never get away with a crime.
Exactly,
That's all I'm saying. Like,
why is he robbing a bank? I don't even know.
Like, is that one of the daily videos?
Yeah. So like,
or you're also so well liked and well perceived that like you could do it, and you could literally be like, do you really think I would do that?
So it's
something to think about.
It's interesting because I always had to remember that there's a lot of people that I work with that I don't know their names, but they know me. They know of me.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting. But when you have so much content you've done over the years, it's interesting to do it. Now it's kind of cool when I leave. Just go to anywhere else, go to Hawaii or Houston or whatever.
Yeah.
No one really knows me. One time I was in Vegas. I was playing on the street. And I had a former student that was getting married, and they saw me on there and came over and say hi to me as I'm playing on the street. So I think that's the furthest away.
That's a wild story.
Getting recognized was in Vegas one time.
Is that Professor Midgley?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I would get that sometimes, and like over the years I've lost some weight, and gained weight, and facial hair, and I'm always surprised that anybody would even recognize me for 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But there's enough of it there that you can kind of tell who that person is, and so and part of it might be the suit and tie as well.
It's a style. It's a very unique style.
Yeah, it does stand out, especially around here.
Yeah, because no one wears suits and ties hardly. Yeah. Most of my colleagues don't wear suits and ties. It's kind of a it's going to be interesting that you just never see any even politicians. A lot of the times they lose the tie now even.
You just got to let them know where they stand.
My mind
peasants.
Well, my mind says like this, and maybe it's probably the same thing when you're in the military.
Yeah.
You knew who was in charge by the bars they had on their shoulders.
Yeah.
I mean, or the stripes they had on them. For me, like especially when I was younger, because I started teaching at 28 in university, so I was like 10 years older than some of these some of my students. Well, I felt like I needed to stand out that that this person's in charge, and one way of doing it is wearing a suit.
Yeah,
because day one of class, you could have just sat in.
Definitely back then. Yeah. Absolutely. I could have fit in very, very easily.
I would do that. I would have done that day one. I would just sat there and just kept waiting and just see how.
Try to talk crap about the professor. Like, when's this guy going to show up?
And then get him rolling with it. And then once they start doing it, then stand up and be like, anyway.
And now, honestly, I've got, I think with age, when you get some more grays in your hair and whatnot like that, I don't need a suit. And that's probably what a lot of my colleagues feel because they know that you're the ones that's in charge now. But I do feel like in some ways it's kind of a respect thing for me that, hey, I'm taking this job serious. I'm coming here, I'm teaching you, I'm going to put on the suit and tie. And I go to things like, I taught band camp. Well, I was in a suit and tie. Now, normally everybody else is wearing, T-shirts or whatever, or polos or whatever. Because it is hot out and whatnot like that. But for me, that's how I teach. When I teach, I put a suit and tie on. Anyways, it's kind of my uniform for this, and I've gotten so used to it, I just wear it. And normally on a Sunday, I probably don't wear a suit and tie too much, but I have. It just depends. Like, I'll just.
Well, look good, man. Appreciate you spicing it up a little bit, coming over here and changing up the Sunday routine.
Absolutely.
Got to throw on the suit, man. Come on the show. It just wouldn't be right if we were like interviewing you and you're not wearing a suit.
Yeah.
Everybody would watch it and be like, "Is he sick?"
You're like, "That's AI."
That's how it is.
Well, I kind of got over the last couple of years. Just really enjoyed wearing a white suit in a little short film called "The Brick Streets of Nacogdoches Vice." I was trying to rip off Miami Vice, trying to look like Don Johnson in his white suit and what like that. And after we started wearing it, thinking, I actually kind of like this white suit thing, but it's hard because it's so easy to stain a white coat.
Oh yeah.
And so it doesn't. These do not last. White just does not last. So you can get a beige after a while, but it's no longer white. I mean, and there's nothing I can do, like, throwing bleach or whatever. It doesn't do anything. It's just, once it's stained, it's pretty much stained.
Yeah, dude. That's why I won't even wear khakis anymore or anything like that. In that khaki color, like, it's just dark colors that I stick with. But I do got to ask you, I got a question for you. Since you do teach a class called The History of Rock and Roll, who's your favorite rock star? Favorite artists of all time.
That's one of the big questions I get. There's so many. I mean, my default is just because they were so influential, and I gravitate towards them as a songwriter. A lot. The Beatles are such a big part of my life. Buddy Holly was another one that was a big part of my life because as a guitar player.
Said Buddy Holly.
Buddy Holly. I love early Buddy Holly's music a great deal. There's some more obscure guitar players and bands and what like that. But I went to go see John Fogerty, and I didn't realize how much CCR was a big influence on me. I just didn't realize that. Steve Miller is another.
I love it. I listen to classic rock all the time, and I listen to Steve Miller Band all the time.
Steve Miller is a great guitar player, great songwriter. And so there's a lot of folks out there that I just, I would kind of have an epiphany like, oh, I guess this is the person I was really influenced by. I'm sitting there watching John Fogerty play. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is a lot of my sound that comes out.
This is where it all came from.
So it was like I listened to a lot of CCR as a kid because there was a lot of guitar playing going on, and I love the blues, and so they had a good background with that. So there's a lot of bands out there, and again, I do tell the students that like this, I get some folks that know some obscure band. I don't know everybody who's ever picked up a guitar in their life.
Yeah.
What mine's a little bit different than some other like history classes that. Mine's geared on music. I'm a musician. I'm a practicing musician. So I'm able to talk about some of those aspects to think about why would this happen with this. So like when I talk about Elvis, it's a little bit different than when like a regular
Elvis,
story.
I don't even know. I mean, he was a musician, but I mean, he seems to me to be like the first worldwide celebrity,
like rock star,
even beyond rock star, because he was an actor and all this. I mean, really, like it's.
He was. I think a lot of it goes that he was just so genuine as a human being to other people. Like you run into you all talk about politicians. I try to talk to every politician I run into.
Get him!
And the reason why is because like their television persona can be really different than
who they are as a person. Yeah.
And I remember seeing a couple folks thinking, how does this person ever get elected? Then I talked to them one-on-one, like, oh, I know. They're very personable one-on-one.
It's like, people can think whatever they want to think about Ted Cruz. I'm not here to support him either way. But, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, I never met him, but I know several people who have, and they were like, dude, when you meet him in person, nothing like what you see on camera and during a debate. Said he's super nice, doesn't even mention politics. Like, it's just very personable with people, like easy to approach. Very, very good dude, supposedly.
Well, I've seen him in my town, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. He talked at commencement before and has come to various things. And the idea of and the 2 things about politicians. One, they got to be able to articulate their ideas, and the other one is even probably more important: be able to get money.
Money. So, ideas are cool, but how are we going to pay for them?
So you can't have that personal ability. Like Elvis probably could get you to give him money. Yeah, because he was just so likable. But he wasn't that way. Obviously, because
I like Elvis's origin story. Like, his past, like where he came from, like singing gospel music, like in predominantly African American churches and stuff, and then you can see how that begins to affect his music later on in his career and stuff.
He could sing, and like there was no auto-tune going on with Elvis. He could sing. There was a talent of singing. But I think he only knew like 4 chords on the guitar, so it really wasn't much of a guitar player. Really didn't write his own songs. Like his name would
gospel single.
His name would be on the records because he gets some publication rights, get royalties and whatnot like that. But he had what I call the it factor.
Oh yeah.
Like you're in podcast land. Joe Rogan has an it factor for podcast. Now,
whatever it is, he's got it.
Yeah.
I remember him on Fear Factor. I don't know if you guys were tuning.
Oh yeah.
I love that show.
And they're eating, weird stuff or whatever, or getting a bunch of bugs put on them or whatever. And there was something about him that was there. And he was also on that radio TV show also, I think, as well. But
news radio or whatever.
But today, for sure, he has an it factor. Most of the big politicians that we know have an it factor to them. There's something about them. Beyonce, Taylor Swift, or whatever, regardless of like their music, there's something about that individual that people like they want to see. And,
yeah, they're kind of
gravitate
drawn to that.
Yeah, Herb, it's called the Illuminati.
and I think in some ways, some of the best professors have an it factor for their subject. They're able to be really good at that. Some of them, that's all they can do is that, and that's fine. That's what their job is.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, I run into somebody like a fast food restaurant or somewhere else that has an it factor. I'm thinking, in another place and time, we could all know your name. Mm-hmm. We could all know who this person is, and just for whatever reasons, it didn't quite turn out. I remember hearing a story with Madonna, before she was famous, she'd run around Central Park and people would stop her for autographs. I mean, that's a star.
Yeah.
Before you're famous, and they think you're famous.
Huh.
That's a star.
That's wild.
And that, like in music.
It's because they're lizards. Okay, that's what it is. I'm sorry. I'm just messing. I can go down.
I go down conspiracy road with you because I was out there with Art Bell and all these conspiracy long before the internet. We had these radio programs I'd pick up on, but
Bill Cooper.
Yeah, well, I remember this one cast I was listening to. It was kind of like a knockoff of Coast to Coast, and there was I say, oh yeah, all the presidents and all the kings are kind of related together. I think, oh really? They went through and they said, show this, and then they're lizard people. I'm like,
yeah, you kind of lost me here.
Like, what? I'm thinking, listen, this is 45 minutes before you mentioned that. Couldn't you start with that?
I will say they are entertaining. They are entertaining. Like, if you can go into it, as long as you don't go too far down the rabbit hole.
I think a lot of folks, especially in the last 10 years or so, politics is very wearing for folks. And I'll just say this, not talking about politics, but I've been around a long time. There's ebbs and tides for things going on.
Yeah.
If something's going on you don't like now, it probably will balance out down the line a little bit. So it's things don't rock up so much that it's going to the whole world. I've been around long enough where people say, hey, this is going to be the end of society. And it's not. and this happens and this happens. No, I think humanity is a lot more stronger than one person's ideas or something that's going on. And really, honestly, the thing like this, if you can kind of just enjoy your life, I think in a lot of ways that we have so much information that comes out all the time. We're just saturated with all this. Yeah. And our ancestors didn't have any of that. Like at one point, it could take you 6 months to find out who got elected to be president here.
Yeah, just some guy rode into town on a horse once every couple of months.
This is what happened.
Who's the president? Oh, really?
We had an election?
Yeah.
I think how long it would take them to add up the votes back in the day.
I don't even want to imagine. I bet it was a nightmare. Months.
And then finally they get the telegraph and they can kind of actually go and say, okay, we got this, and you can know in a day or two who got elected and whatnot. So it's just interesting that we get all this data. So I would say for a lot of folks out there, if this is a bad news cycle for you, find a podcast, find something else.
Yeah, just hang on for a couple of years, you'll be all right.
Do some entertainment. And again, I've been around this dance a long time, been around life, and some things come up and go a little bit. Some things will affect people. But in majority, it's really hard to affect everybody all at once. I mean, our government is set up that way that you can't change more than a third of a people at a time, right? Because it's every year for representatives.
Pretty good checks and balances.
You got every 2 years, 6 years, but 2 years for the senators. So and then the president's every 4 years. So it's kind of set up where you can't have big changes happen all at one time. So and again, that's just my mindset. And then I say this: whenever you can, make yourself strong. For me, that was education by going and getting degrees, and that way I have some options for various things. For somebody else, it could be some other things. Family is a big important part for a lot of people. People's faiths are a big part of people's lives.
Yeah, you just got to find that purpose, whatever that purpose is in life.
And that's the idea. Like if you are able to have a reason to get up. Like y'all today, I don't know whatever. I know y'all probably had some other reasons, but this is one of the reasons was you're gonna film today.
Oh yeah, that's all it was today. It was like because we had someone on before you, we're gonna have someone on a little later and stuff. Like it's Sundays are our like really busy days for this.
And so the idea
When
of
it's all said and done, I'm probably talking 7-8 hours like today.
that purpose of life, and again, that's one of the reasons why I like doing the things I do. And like some people say, hey, you should only do this on your channel. I say, well, I don't want to do that. I want to do some of the things.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to show you how to play piano. Sometimes I want to talk about life. Sometimes I want to show you me benching 205 pounds one time very slowly. You know, so it's just whatever comes up can be there, and that gives me joy. And if people like it, cool. If they don't, that's fine too. There's I'm not afraid of like a lot of folks are like afraid of retiring or whatever because I don't have anything to do. Man, I got so much stuff I can do right now. There's a bunch of films and screenplays. I probably got 16 full-length screenplays I've written. I remember you were talking to me about it a while back, and I was like, my gosh. And multiple movies just sit on a shelf.
Just wait.
And I got, a lot of short films because those are fun little one-offs you can write pretty quickly. And so that's the fun part of filmmaking is if you're a writer, you can go and write these ideas out. And then if it comes together, that's one reason why I think with AI, they actually get it. I might be willing to pay $250 a month if I can get a film out of it.
Yeah.
Here's my script, and then
seems like a pretty good deal to me.
Let's see what happens.
Well, what was that software you told me about script writing? It was like $100 or something.
Yeah, it was a Final Draft.
Final Draft, that's what it was. Yeah. Because I used that, and that was like, whoa. Because I went from like hand jamming like a Word doc to Final Draft, and then Final Draft because it go ahead. It formats it for you. Like it very quickly in real time.
If you got two people, it alternates between that, or you can type in the name of the person and it pops up there.
And Microsoft Word just won't do that, man.
It's a niche software, and everybody I know that's a professional screenwriter uses Final Draft, and so and it used to be way more expensive. So it's
because we're actually writing sketch comedy for our show, and so I've been using that whenever I do write. I need to get back in there and write again. I'm not like you, man. I can't write every single day. That comes in spurts. I got like some.
Well, I would say this. And this is one of the things I do. I have stuff that's not good that I still that I write on every day. Yeah. Then I have other stuff. This is a good idea. I can write on that. But I still don't give up the other one. I still I will finish it. I remember there was one screenplay that I was like, man, golly, I was like thinking, this is not even going anywhere at all. And so I completely like flip into another genre, and it was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And there was one I can't remember. This was not working at all, but I just kept turning it out. Finally got to that 70 pages and done. I'm like, yes, because it was that process of that's not giving up on it, and most likely I never will do anything with it. But the idea that I don't want to give up on that script and just keep churning it out till you get it done. And
heck yeah.
So there's a lot of schools of thoughts that I'm glad that you're writing and putting things together, and that software is handy to be able to put that, and much again just like another tool.
Yeah, for sure. AI
is a tool. The internet's a tool. All this digital things we have now are tools. It's how you use it, and think what we're doing here. 50 years ago, we'd have a whole production staff here. People doing the cameras, people doing all of that, and now we do it with a box and a couple of things going on.
Isn't it kind of crazy?
And so I'm looking forward to even more cool stuff in the future as well.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and this is probably going to happen that Three's Company and the A Team and MASH. I want to put them together and have a TV show.
And I can do it with AI.
They have it all connected together, and I want the theme songs all combined together as well. And you'll be able to make custom content for yourself.
Yeah.
I predict that may be the future of some of this AI, and then someone who's smart enough to be able to pull it off and get the rights to do it. We'll have a list of shows. And you basically say, I want these two shows to connect together. Or I love Firefly. Let's do the second season. And
we're getting a second season. You best believe that.
And this is how we're going to. This is the theme I want for this season. And just have that content directly on it. or there's a movie you didn't like the ending of it, and you say,
Change it up.
here's the. There was one movie. The one at Pay It Forward. You probably never saw it. The ending of it just makes me mad. So I redid the movie in my brain, and that's how the movie ended. Because the way it ended, I did not like.
I can do this better.
So this made it my brain, and that's how the movie ended to me. So I think that's going to be one of the big future things out of this technology, that we'll have content on demand. They might take your podcast and say, I want them to talk about this.
Yeah, you know, that's one thing that's been coming up in the podcasting realm. It's like, how do you verify? Like, how can a viewer verify that this is actually is really you? You know. And
I guess one of the things on this that I have is like a moral aspect of things. Like, I used to use this example. Like, if you had me at Burger King and walk around in my white suit and I got a bunch of Whoppers and milkshakes and I trip and it falls all over me.
Yeah.
And you, for some reason, you just have to be videotaping it. Do you put that on TikTok?
Me? No.
Why?
Well, because it's screwed up. Like, it's not right. Like, if it's an accident and someone, it's like, it's embarrassing. It's like, no, that's a cruel thing to do.
If Moses does it, do you put it on TikTok?
Like, if he posted?
No. If you videotaped it and he drops Burger King all over himself,
I would film it and definitely send it to him at least once every 3 to 6 months to remind him of what happened.
Remember that time? Yeah. You idiot.
Well, I think if you're friends with someone, you're more likely to be willing to share that. And if it's just some random person,
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I can see that.
If it's some random person you don't even know at all.
Yeah. That's why, like, a lot of the popular videos that you see is like where people go and they'll start pranking people, like in a Walmart or a Home Depot. I don't think that's funny at all, especially when it's like
that stuff makes me mad for the person that it's happening to, because I knew if I was in that situation, I would be extremely mad.
But you're in Texas. If you're in Texas,
sure, you're an idiot if you try to do that stuff anyways.
What gets me is like those creators of that stuff. Then they like sit there and they're like, oh no, wait. When the guy gets mad and like there's some aggression, they're like, it's a joke. Like they're like, what's wrong with you? Like you came and you threw a glitter bomb.
One guy did that and he got shot in a mall.
Yeah,
and then he was trying to play the victim, and he was like, no, this man was working. He was a Uber or like DoorDash or whatever. He had some other person's order, and the guy came up and was messing with him. He shot him.
Yeah.
Well, I see nothing wrong with that. He shouldn't have messed with that poor man.
What would you do if you came out in your truck and someone was like lifting a muffler out of it?
Yeah, I'm just trying to make some content.
Yeah, I'd be like, are you stealing my stuff? I'm not going to put up with that.
You're not stealing this content.
Yeah.
Boom.
Well, it's like, and then at the end of that, he says, "Are you sure your muffler's still there?" And obviously, he just put a crummy old muffler in there. That wasn't even what a muffler looks like today. But again, you don't know that. Most people don't know what their muffler looks like.
True.
You know, I mean, I don't even know for sure what my muffler looks like. I know it's like straight line and a little bigger. And you know,
I think it's it.
You know, ding, ding, ding. Yeah, what is it? You know. So that and I talk about this morality thing, but also the other thing like this is that if you see me say something, you need to verify it, especially today, if it's actually something that's
if it's
legit.
accurate, if it's factual.
And so, like, I'd like to hope if someone took any of my content out there and had me say some horrible stuff or whatever, that they would give me the benefit of the doubt first, before just making, give me the scarlet letter right off the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd like to hope that, because I know this is going to get so good that I really could make an avatar and just have that make content for me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's a brave new world, man, but I think we're getting close to having to wrap it up.
Oh.
Yeah.
You got any questions you want to ask, Moses, before we get up out of here? I think we
real-
covered a lot, man.
Real quick, I would like to know what degrees do you have? Like, what are they in, and what associates?
Let's go through all 8.
Yeah, I have to know.
All right, my first associate's degree was music theory and composition. The second one was in music instruments. The third one was in liberal arts. That's because I had so many hours and stuff, so I figured why not get that. My only baccalaureate degree is music theory and composition. My first master's degree is in music theory and composition. Then I went to teach public school, and I got a master's in education. And then a long time goes by, I get an MFA in filmmaking. And then finally during the pandemic, I went and worked on educational higher education and educational leadership degree, EDD, and that. So that's my 8 degrees.
Wow. And how many instruments can you play?
What I can play, I was certified to be a band director, so at one point I played all of them, but now...
Of course
you
did.
So is there, what instrument do you not feel confident you can play?
What can you not play?
Yeah.
Honestly, now the rock instruments, guitar, bass, piano, drums, those I can do fine.
Mm-hmm.
Baritone a little bit. That's about the only brass instrument I kept up, was like a baritone trombone type thing. And I can sort of play trumpet a little bit, but not really. But I would almost never play those in public. Violin, I played second fiddle in an orchestra. I probably could work that up better. I'd be more comfortable on a violin than I would on a baritone or trumpet for sure.
Okay.
So I enjoy that. Trying to think of anything like any string instrument like a banjo or mandolin. I could learn fast enough. Mm-hmm. Ukulele, I'm just not proficient at it right this second, but that won't take me very long because if it's got frets on it, it's got a
like the muscle movement is kind
of
gotcha.
Once I know what the shapes are for the ukulele, I could go through there and play through that. So those are fun. What I have realized is, and what I probably should do, is get some singing lessons, and that's the one thing I find. A lot of the folks that I know that perform, they can play well, but for some reason, unless you have, most people I know don't have singing lessons. Yeah. If you sing in choir, you don't really take singing lessons. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the next thing I want to work on, is try to get a little bit more. I'm in tune, but I like to just get a little bit more presence there.
Okay.
And I think working with somebody who's actually trained in the voice can get me get me to another level of that. So I think that's the...
So you're literally telling us you're about to become a rock star.
Well, last summer I recorded a punk rock record where I played all the parts, and I think, man, this is amazing. I'm able to do this with the technology today. And this album really just cost me the price of a Scarlett, because I already got the laptop and whatever gear I have that I probably have already. And it's amazing to be able to do that.
I remember hearing some of it. I was like, okay, all right, there you go.
I think this summer I'm going to record an instrumental. Just that way people aren't going to hear me sing. So I'll just record some instrumentals. And I love blues. I can play blues all day long.
Yeah, blues is good.
But I also like some avant-garde electronica, like some weird music concrete, weird sounds, electronic, just weirdness that nobody... I remember someone made a joke a long time ago that said, I paid $24,000 to learn how to write music nobody wants to hear. Honestly, when I took composition, they had us learn this 8-tone. I thought I was going to write music like Mozart, this tonal stuff. No, I was like, that was the stuff I was writing, and all yeah, it's really good. I'm thinking, all right.
Good luck trying to sell that.
Oh yeah, there's no selling that. But the skill of composing allowed me to be able to write for whatever genre I wanted to do. So if I wanted to write tonally, I could write tonal. Mm-hmm. So that's so much fun. Well, this has been a great. Thanks so much. Hopefully, I get a chance to come back again on 180.
Yeah. Herbert. Final thoughts. The people that want to find you, obviously got the Internet Legend on YouTube. What other avenues can they go to find you?
My name is Herbert Midgley. Basically everything on Instagram to TikTok, on YouTube, you type in Herbert Midgley, you'll find it. Okay. If you want to watch the robot film, I have a link to it, therobotfilm.com.
We'll have all the links to all of this in our description as well.
We'll take you right there. So herbertmidgley.com, midgleymusic.com, midgleyfilm.com. We'll take you to all my content. But honestly, if you just type in Herbert Midgley, whatever you want.
Everything will come up.
The one, the only.
Awesome.
If you want music to say that, if you want video to say that.
Yeah.
But the robot film is a good film to go check out. And I love the Brick Streets and Nacogdoches films also.
Yeah.
Those are fun ones as well. And I got one more left. And I don't know when this film. I think I'm gonna hopefully film this before August because I want to lose this at some point. It just feels so weird to have all that going on.
I had one kind of long a couple of months ago, and I ended up cutting it off. I was like, I can't.
This is the longest I've had since the pandemic. For when the pandemic happened, I just stopped shaving because I didn't see anybody for a while.
Yeah.
And I think, but I think this is almost getting to the point it's longer than when I started that as well. So.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, Herb, thanks for coming in, man. The Internet Legend. You guys know where to find him. you're always more than welcome to come on the show anytime you want, man.
Yeah, thanks
Well,
for coming on.
I'm gonna hopefully talk y'all into making a short film with me at some point. So
yeah, we're down.
maybe you look for that on here as well.
Oh, yeah.
The most interesting man I've ever met. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank y'all.